Oh, I can't hear you.
April Fools!
Oh, I can't
April
believe
Fools!
you absolute swine. Oh,
Hi, everyone. It's episode 28. I really just wanted to see Mark's face, thinking I was muted, but I wasn't for once. Bit of a risky joke, actually, because I could well have messed everything up.
I tell you what, that gave me... I was so annoyed. I was like, oh, no, that can't be. No, it can't be.
No.
Oh, not good for the podcast either, because they won't get that joke at all.
Oh, no, terrible. Terrible for everyone except for me, really, but went for it anyway. Hi, everyone. It's episode 28. Opportunity Knocks, a fitting title to what looks to be an exciting week after an awful international break. Mark, how are you? I'm sorry.
I'm getting heart palpitations now. You probably owe me one, to be fair, because I've got more sneaky
Couldn't
samples
resist.
coming up. Exactly. I'll get my own back before the end of the show. Don't worry. We had. Oh, it's been a strange time, isn't it? Because of the break, and we were trying to relax and get out of FPL mode a bit, but I think on Sunday's show was a bit of a key show for us. It turned out to be. It was a really big show. Really enjoyed it. That was kind of like a look back, a retrospective, and in that, I think we kind of set the tone for a lot of conversations this week in terms of the idea of effective ownership, fear of missing out, that kind of stuff. A lot of talk on Twitter, which you've been kind of at the centre of. So Sunday's episode was massive, wasn't it? Yeah, I mean, you've had a few run-ins. I mean, where are you with this whole Twitter situation now? Because it's been meandering a bit, hasn't it?
I think the problem has been is that, like, a lot of the time I've been arguing points that weren't even my intention to argue. I mean, all Luke and I were trying to say was, like, if you're doing quite well and you want to do even better, sprinkle in a couple of differentials and you might see your rank rise really high if you get the luck of the draw. And it was just amazing how many people thought I was advocating Trossard captain every week and bin off all your highly owned players and all that, when that wasn't what we were saying. But water under the bridge. International break does funny things to people. I got a bit too into it, and I think so did everyone else. So it's nice to have a game week to look forward to where I haven't got to think about all that again.
It is, and I think that I think Sunday's show was great for us in that respect. And
reception's been amazing.
It has. And tonight's show is going to be a lot more lightweight, a lot more relaxed. We're looking forward. I haven't got anywhere near as much data prepared, so if you're expecting some more,
drink.
I've got a glass of wine. Cheers.
Cheers, everyone.
Have a good Easter. I'm looking forward to the week off work next week. So next week's show with the Wildcard, and I think we're going to talk about a bit tonight about whether we're both going to be playing the Wildcard still, because I think it's presumed that we're both going to go into 31 wildcarding. But I'm going to talk a bit later about whether the new double game week changes our plans. And I've started looking at that today. I've got to admit that I haven't really done any planning for the Wildcard, and I haven't really looked to sanity check that 31 is still the best game week to wildcard. And there's some chatter in the community about, or maybe pushing it to 32 or 33. So we'll look at that tonight, and I'll get your thoughts on that. We're going to look at obviously some of the players that come to mind for that wildcard, particularly with double game week 32. We're going to look at the opportunity to take a punt for this coming game week with today's poster boy, which is Marcus Alonso, who is a player that I think we're both looking at. And we're going to look at a deep dive into the captaincy, because I think, Sunday's discussion was all about Kane and the decision being affected by effective ownership. So we've got that dilemma again, maybe. So we're going to touch on that as well. So interested to get your opinion on that. I think you're going Kane again, aren't you? You're just sticking with Kane.
Well, I'm just a bit afraid of how many people are going to captain him. So, no.
There's a lot of cowards out there.
I probably am. Probably am going to go Kane. He's got the best. I think Newcastle's the best fixture at the moment. So that sways it. Nothing to do with ownership. I never said just pick a captain because of ownership. You've got to go for the one you think is going to score best. And I think anyone playing Newcastle at the moment has got to be considered. But your double-digit thing last week might have put me towards another option.
Yes, and
I'll save it for later.
It's
not Alonso.
Is it not? Okay.
It's not, no.
I've got the case for another player as well, and I probably is the same player as you. So that'll be interesting when we meet in the middle for that captaincy chat as well. So we don't need to look back at our game week 29. But I thought I'd bring up the great and the good league because the good news for you is out of the relegation zone, out of the relegation zone by
No way.
by
Villaronca as well.
I know,
Yeah.
above Villaronca. So you're giving chase to Tom Freeman. You're only 1 point behind Tom, but you've gone ahead of Villaronca, and you've left Joe and Late Riser in the bottom two. So at the moment,
Do you know what? I'm really happy with that.
I am too, because it means we can do great in the good league next year.
I'm really happy with that.
Yeah.
That's quite. I was cut adrift as well, so I have clawed my way back into it.
Well,
I just need to not blow it.
It was down to that game week captain column, and we don't want to dwell on the fact, but look, everyone went Kane apart from yourself and typically Late Riser, who did the upside chasing with Lookman. Was unlucky with Lookman, let's face it, because Lookman really should have scored. And that was the difference, really. Trossard converted his chance and got the assist and got the haul, and that got you the 73 points. So with just the wild card left, that's the one thing I'd worry about, because look at you down there. You're surrounded by people with chips. So there's still a long way to go before you're out of.
Oh, I know. It's all, the wild card is it. It's all gonna. I need to nail that. If I can nail that, I should have a pretty strong end to the season. Easy to say, more difficult to do.
It is. So talking of chips, you brought up the subject of the chips being used in the top 10k, and this surprised me a bit. Do you want to talk us through this? Because I was a bit shocked by the numbers, to be honest.
Well, I've always thought that the top 10k kind of are a bit overinflated because they've probably used all their chips because the chips get them more points.
Yeah.
But in terms of wildcards, there's still a lot of wildcards left. So only 40% have used their wildcards. You've still got 60% of the top 10k with their wildcard left. Free hits have mostly gone. There's 1,000 left. Triple captains, there's nearly 3,000 left. So still quite a few of those. And bench boost, there's 2,000 left. So it's the wildcards really. I thought more second wildcards would have been gone. So for the top 10k, there's still 40% of people who have that wildcard to go, which is a little bit annoying because I really thought, well, I mean, not so annoying for me, but for people who are trying to really push into that top 10k, which isn't really a goal of mine at the moment, I would have hoped it would have been a bit of a bigger boost. I thought it would be more around the 60-70% mark having used it.
Yeah, I mean,
there's actually 60% left.
What's surprising there as well, not so much the triple captain, it's the bench boost. 2,000, so 20% have yet to play the bench boost. And I guess
I don't know when they're going to use it.
Well, this is it. It's because, I mean, I saw on Twitter today, we got us and some other content creators got kind of picked up on the fact that we're all pushing Game Week 31 as the wildcard week. And of course, if you got your bench boost left, that might not be the case because you might want to bench boost ahead of, for Game Week 35, which we think will be quite a large double game week. And this links to Ben Crellin's latest work. I just want to bring up Ben Crellin's chart here while we talk about this. So Ben Crellin is talking about, it's basically fairly likely that there'll be some rearrangements of fixtures because with crowds coming back into the stadiums, I think there's a move to try and give every team a home match, right? And because of that, they're going to rearrange some fixtures around the FA Cup final. So there's talk of 2 blanks in Game Week 36 and those blanks move in to Game Week 35, which will create another double game week with 4 teams playing twice. And there's all kinds of permutations about that, depending on what happens in the FA Cup. I'm not going to go into that. So there is this double game week looming in 35. So if you've got your bench boost back left, the tactic, of course, is normally to couple the wildcard with that. So you might wildcard, you won't wildcard in 31 for bench boost in 35. You'll wildcard later. So, I mean, that's another reason why we need to perhaps consider that, you know, while we're talking about 31, there's a lot of people who probably looking to wildcard later than that. Yeah, and are you doing any kind of mental preparation for that pending double game week?
No, not really. I mean, the next week's going to be key because I'm going to have the spreadsheet out. I'm going to work out my wildcards. I'm still planning on wildcarding in 31. I'm looking at Spurs and I'm thinking it's going to probably just be Kane and Son that I go with. I'm going to want to keep Kane till the end of the season anyway. And then I can move Son on. So I'll work out a plan of kind of how I juggle that. So I will just say the chat has very astutely pointed out that I'm an idiot and actually is 60% that have used their wildcard in the top 10k.
They're very quick to pick up on your maths, aren't they? Right?
I don't know if it's maths. It's my ability to read, which is in question. So there is actually 60% have used their wildcard already. So that is more kind of in line with what I thought. You didn't notice it either, so I'm
I probably wasn't listening to what you were saying as usual, but
that's fair enough. Yeah. I mean, I had to beg you to put this chart in, didn't I? Because
I did. You did indeed. Yeah. I was too busy doing your samples.
I mean, I know. Yeah. I mean, the thing is with playing your wildcard in 34, it just feels to me that the wildcard is the most powerful chip, in my opinion. It's the one that really lets you. I mean, obviously, it has the potential to mess you up because you could end up taking out players. Like the lead players, for example, who go on and do well. But really, I think it offers you the best chance of advantages and to make use of fixture swings and all this kind of stuff. If I'm having to use that in 34, I've got less time to get advantage from it from a start. And secondly, if I'm having to pair that with a bench boost in 35, then I'm having to think about that. And then my team's going to be weaker for the last sort of couple of game weeks. So I'm still happy to go in with the plan of wildcarding in 31. And there's only one double game week in 32. One of the two players I want are going to be playing anyway, so I'm happy to stick with the plan.
So here's a question. So we know now that Spurs played twice in 32 and Palace had the blank, as shown by Ben Crellin's latest chart here. Has that changed your thinking for the wild card? I mean, you say you haven't started working things out yet, but presumably you're going to be going into the wild card in 31 with Kane and Son?
Yes?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I was never planning on a wild card with Son and Kane, because I was happy with the one Spurs play. The double game has obviously changed that, and I now think going in with both. They then have they then got the blank, haven't they?
Yeah. See, that's the problem. Yeah.
But I was always planning on having a fairly strong bench anyway, because if I'm going to be keeping one or two City players, then I don't think we can have. I don't think we can afford to have at this point any non-playing players or 3.94 million options. I think I've got the squad value in the kind of rough drafts I've made to make sure I've got at least a 4.5, 4.6 playing defender. So I'm happy to bench Kane for 33, and I'll probably look to get rid of Son. And, Liverpool have got Newcastle in that game. Grealish could be back for the West Brom game. There's loads of options to kind of go for. The only thing is then Spurs go into Sheffield United straight after. So
that's the problem. I mean,
might want him straight back in, but
that's if you've saved the free hit and you're taking the free hit forward, you've got a really good chance there. I mean, basically it means you can get Man City on your wild card, or you can start getting Man City and Spurs now or on the wild card. You can play the free hit in 33 and then carry them through. I mean, Man City to me are less attractive because of the issues with rotation. And I mean, their situation, if you look at the fixtures they've got up in the short term, they go to Leicester, obviously, in this coming game week. And I think that there's going to be a degree of rotation in that game because they've got Dortmund just two days later. Yeah.
3 starts for There's no way Gundogan's playing Leicester. I'd be amazed if he starts that game.
Yeah, disappointing. I think De Bruyne didn't play the final game for Belgium, did he? Trossard came in and did quite well, I noticed.
He did.
So I think
Batshuayi and Benteke. I mean, how the hell are they starting for Belgium still? It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny how those players on an international stage can be on a different level.
It's why I really like a goal scorer challenge. I don't think you play it, do you?
No.
But it's the one where every week you pick a different player to score.
Oh yeah.
And then once you've used that player, you can't use them again. Anyone listening, check it out, because it's a really simple, fun game. But it really puts players like that into into your thinking, because you're like, well, Batshuayi doesn't start for Palace, but he might start for Belgium. I'll put him in, and the international break comes along, and he scores a goal. And yeah, it's I do like goal scorer challenge. It's got a nice little.
And if you
3 I play FPL Championship Man and Championship Manager and goal scorer challenge, I can't handle anymore. That's it.
And if you check the notes, there's an affiliate link, and Az gets 50% of it. No, I'm joking.
50% of that free to play game.
Yeah, it's free to play. I mean, I think that Gundogan, you're right. I mean, it's a shame because if Gundogan was starting at Leicester, I'd quite fancy him there. Because we looked previously and saw that Leicester at home do allow chances, right? And I think City can get a couple of goals. And I think,
my
okay,
captain
right.
could be.
Really? You're going to look at De Bruyne, are you? I mean, he does look likely to start. So it is. So you were debating whether to go Son or De Bruyne, and it's De Bruyne now who's tempting you.
I think he's top of my thinking. I mean, the amount of double-digit hauls that Leicester concede at home really surprised me.
Yeah.
And it was De Bruyne missing out in that Belgium game that makes me think he should be more likely to start. Especially, I'm convinced Gundogan isn't going to play in that game. I know it's dangerous to play this prediction lottery game, but the signs don't. I mean, three starts over the international break for Gundogan, and then Dortmund coming up. I can't see it. I think he's gonna have to have a break in that, and I think De Bruyne could miss out. But then who do they play in midfield if he doesn't? I think he plays, and Son is the kind of easy option. But as your chart showed, Newcastle aren't giving huge amounts of double-digit hauls away when they play at home.
Yeah,
so
it's true. I mean, I can bring that up if you missed Sunday's show.
I'm putting all my faith in.
I know this is what you're referring to. This is a table that we showed on Sunday. And it's listing, it's basically a table of teams that have conceded double-figure scores to opponents. And the way the table works is if you're playing Man City at home, they've only conceded 2 double-figure returns in home matches. Whereas if you're going to Man City away, rather, they've allowed 4. So actually, yeah, it's surprising that City have allowed more double-figure returns at the Etihad than they have.
Yeah.
When you play them home. So, yeah, I guess that was the Leicester game majorly. But you're right, Newcastle at St James's Park have conceded just 7 double-figure returns compared to 11 when you play them at home. Whereas you look at Leicester and 10 double-figure returns when you go away to Leicester and only 3 when Leicester come to you. So it's very much way towards much more fragile and brittle in home matches for Leicester. So
how much faith do we put in this completely unproven way of picking captains?
It is a measure, I guess, of defensive frailty. And, you know, only recently Leicester allowed double-figure returns to Arsenal in a home game. We saw that. I mean, the Leicester defence, I've never really... I mean, I owned Justin for a short spell. But even when I had him, Leicester defence, they're like Everton's. I just never feel secure in a clean sheet at all. I always think they're one mistake away. I don't trust Schmeichel not to try some elaborate goal kick and kick it to a striker and put themselves in trouble. So I never really put much stock in the Leicester defence. That's why I do fancy Gundogan.
The opposite.
Do you?
I feel the opposite of them. Yeah, I think because I haven't owned Justin, I've been so frustrated with the number of like clean sheets and stuff he's got. It's always felt like every week they've got a clean sheet. And they've been so unlucky with the injuries they've had for Fana and Soyuncu and Pereira being injured and stuff. And it does look like they're getting back to a fully fit defence. I just don't really know what that looks like. And obviously Ndidi being back is massive because he's the kind of guy. Yeah. But they're not a settled defence. You know, even if they get all of their first team defence back, this isn't a defence that's played all season and looking really strong and comfortable. This is a team that he's been injured for a bit and he's coming back. He's injured and he's coming back. It's not a patchwork defence because it's their best players, but at the same time they're players who haven't played that many minutes this season. But I was just really surprised to see that. I mean, 10 double-digit returns. I mean, I know you can say what you like about the prediction model of this, but like you say, it just shows that they are conceding, chances. They are conceding goals when playing at home, and it's City, right? That's the thing. That's if it was any other team, I probably wouldn't be that into it. But the fact that it's City playing them is the kind of difference. And it's whenever I've got the opportunity to captain a City player in a game which looks good, then I want to because they're the team that scores the most goals.
So here's a question for you. I mean, given that schedule, and that's only in the short term, and if they get past Dortmund, surely the rotation around Champions League games is going to get worse. And I think the Leeds game there in Gameweek 31, that's a lottery. I mean, if you're taking City assets into that game, I can't see with the second leg at Dortmund 3 days later, us being able to predict what Pep's going to select in that game.
No.
So
and that's key when we're thinking about the wildcard teams as well, because yeah, I mean, if that's 1-1, if they play at home at Dortmund, it's 1-1. Like, what team are they going to put out against Leeds? Who are safe? They haven't even got to like show respect to them because of the league or anything. Like they're both City have won the league. Leeds are safe. Who do they put out? I have absolutely no idea.
And also,
So,
like on that Leeds pitch, you just don't want to chance injuries as well. He's going to have to be careful of that.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
So I just think I'm not going to get any City players in the wildcard. Are you feeling the same?
Wow. No.
You are going to get one at least, are you?
It's interesting. I mean, you can make a case for none. You can make a case for three. It's that kind, and you can make a case for any of them. Like early in the season, Mahrez, Foden, these guys you wouldn't be thinking of. You could even make a case for like Ferran Torres if you really like wanted to go down that road. I think I'm probably going to go for Diaz and De Bruyne. Diaz, I mean, I might go for Ederson. He was I don't want to go for Ederson, but at the same time, it is a bit different now because I'm looking at Martinez, and I'm thinking his run to the end of the season is rough, really, really, really rough. So I'm looking at someone like Mendy maybe, or maybe keeping Pope, and I'm thinking if I'm not planning, I mean, the thing with going for Ederson is it locks you out of City players, right? Like you go for Ederson, then suddenly you're limited in the amount of City players that you can have. But when we're probably not going to be considering 3 City players, I think it's a bit less of a risk and a bit less of a gamble. So I could end up going for Ederson, but I think I will go for De Bruyne. I'm going to hope that they play him for most of the games to keep his kind of form going. But yeah, Gundogan's a worry though, because I don't suddenly think Gundogan's a really bad pick. I think if he plays, he's going to carry on scoring well. I just don't know if he's going to play, and I think I'd rather have Jota in. Yeah,
this is the problem. I'm looking at City's fixtures here in the ticker. This is the ticker from Gameweek 30 through to 38. I haven't got the Gameweek to the top, so apologies for that. But obviously, it is 30 to 38, and I just don't see fixtures there. I mean, the home games they've got Leeds, they've got Chelsea, they've got Everton. I just don't see any of those games where I'm necessarily can rely on a captaincy, right? Because of the issues with, unless it's De Bruyne, about the only player I would consider captaining in the City team. So it's about Diaz then. Do I need a City defender? And I've started looking at potential defence, and you've got likes of the Chelsea defence, obviously, and you've got Luke Shaw. I think Dallas is probably worth keeping given the fixtures that Leeds end the season with. So I don't know. And Alexander-Arnold, obviously there's a big case for him. So I'm struggling actually to see that I need a City defender. Yes, they're reliable, but I think we've noticed of late with the rotation, they've become a little less reliable. And that rotation is just going to continue. And I mean, Diaz and Stones are not going to start 80% of the remaining games. It's going to rotate constantly, I think. Do you not think that?
No, I agree. I Diaz, I don't know.
No, Diaz will play.
He plays. The thing with Diaz and Stones is they either play or don't. It's not like Cancelo. I've still got Cancelo, but I don't think he's worth it because he rotates anyway and he's going to rotate more. But Diaz and Stones, I think if you've got a decent bench, if you have got Dallas, if he plays in midfield, I don't care what fixture he's got.
Yeah, true.
I still think he's a good option. I think you've got Shaw, you've got Rudiger, you've got Soufal, you've got plenty of players that are well priced who can come on and do well. So I think Diaz, there's no reason why I don't think Diaz can be a strong pick. So I think he'll either play. Okay, they might be a little bit frailer, but the fixtures, I mean, Palace, Newcastle, Brighton, I fancy them to get clean sheets in all 3 of those. Chelsea don't score that many goals, and then Everton at home. I don't know. The only thing is that blank, isn't it? Because if you've got 2 or 3 City players on the wild card and you've got Spurs players as well, then you could be going into that with 4 players with the blank.
Well, that's it.
And Ederson's someone pointed out in the chat, Ederson, you need to have a backup goalkeeper. Forster looks like he might have kind of got the first choice goalkeeper spot at kind of the right time, because you could go with him. But yeah, you've got to be careful.
Yeah, so I referred to the Leeds pitch for City are actually at home to Leeds. I thought they were away to Leeds in 30. I don't know what's going on there, 31. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting what you say about
Mark. We're making so many mistakes tonight.
It's what you said about Ederson, because people have said with the game week double for Spurs for 32.
Forster doesn't play in 33. Sorry, that's another one.
Terrible. So with
Amateur hour over here.
with the double game week for Spurs in 32, Son and Kane we've spoken about already as being in your wild card. What's your consideration for a third Spurs player? Because for me, Lloris in the wild card, just the way you're talking about Edison, the fact that you've got that other goalkeeper, so he's not really taking a spot that you're going to need. Lloris is in my thinking because of that very reason. But if you're going Edison, presumably Lloris isn't someone you're looking at.
Well, it's the same. It's the same. I mean, if you're asking me to pick a goalkeeper between now and the end of the season between Edison and Lloris, it's Edison. Like every day. Like I don't trust Spurs at all. City could play there every single reserve player and they're still a better side than Spurs, in my opinion. So it would be Reguilon, I think, if I was going to pick a Spurs player. I also really do like Lucas Moura, and I said it before the last game week. I just look at Moura and I look at Bale. And I think which of these two players at the moment is Mourinho going to pick every game?
Oh God, he loves Moura, doesn't he?
And like there's no contest at all. No. So if I'm looking for a third Spurs, I think it's between Reguilon and Moura, just because I think Reguilon's got what I think is a security of the starts in both those games. And Reguilon, I mean, I don't want any of the other Spurs like back four, like they're all just non-options to me. Lloris is an option, but yeah, I think I'd rather go for Edison.
I mean, the thing is with Lloris, obviously you've got the save points that might get the odd. You know, that will supplement what you don't get with clean sheets, I guess. And you get the double Everton Southampton, which I think aren't bad fixtures. I don't think there'll be a clean sheet away at Everton, but I think at home to Southampton is possible. And then Spurs play Sheffield United, Leeds, Wolves, and Villa. I mean, 3 of the next 4 are at home, and of course you can bench Lloris then in 33. That's the idea, and it doesn't. You know, you're getting 3 Spurs without massive.
So who'd your
impact on the
reserve
team.
goalkeeper be? Because Forster was mine, but he doesn't play either.
That's what was interesting. I haven't done much. By the way, like one of these is a good idea. Like if you're going to put your wild card together, get Excel and just put. You know, if you've done that. And then
not this again.
You mentioned you were going to do. I'd do it like this if I was you. So I just put Lloris in.
Mark.
So what I did. When I mean, this is the first.
I love that you don't even ask me for mine. You just every week you just whack
you
yours
can
in.
Throw yours in. When you do.
You won't put it in like my top 10k.
When you blatantly copy my idea of doing a plan, throw it over and I'll throw it in. Now next week we should obviously, and then obviously we'll do we'll probably do a show and then we'll do the live stream. I guess it'll have to be Thursday night, won't it? We'll have to do a show on Wednesday and then a drunk stream on Friday. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But anyway, so I threw what I did.
That fancy scout when I
show
no,
you're doing
on Friday.
No, exactly. Full-time fancy, it's all right. So what I did, I picked my team to 32. I didn't even look at 30 and 31 or 30 and I didn't look at 31. 31 is when I planned to wildcard. So I just picked what team would I like for 32, and obviously that includes 3 Spurs. And then my plan was, well, once I know what I want for 32, I'll go back to 31 and see how I can build for that with a wildcard. What does my team in 31 look like? And the keeper that I put in Lloris was Leno, because obviously the home and away thing, so you get home fixtures. And Arsenal at home are not bad defence. We'll look at data in a minute and see if that's valid. But Leno and Lloris work okay. But it's interesting, I was listening to Andy's stream and he was saying, well, a lot of people suggested Lloris, but he feels it's a bit too much money to invest in the keeper spots if you do that. But I just don't, at this stage of the season, I don't think money's that much of an issue. I mean, you were talking Edison, so presumably you feel the same.
Well, I just think points over price, it doesn't matter anymore, does it?
Yeah.
It's kind of the opposite of the argument. Yeah, I mean, there's a big argument for the Leno Martinez double up as well, because Martinez perfectly covers Leno.
I saw the fixtures, yeah.
Yeah, when the fixtures, but then you're paying kind of 5 million or over for a goalkeeper who just has 2 good fixtures. Yeah, it depends. I still think there are enough premium options for us not to kind of throw money under the bus and think that it's not important. I mean, you've got Fernandes, De Bruyne, Son, Kane. There's this Salah could come back into the reckoning at some point. I still want to be able to move for players if and when. If Salah suddenly starts hitting form, I don't want to be priced out of it because I've got 2 5.5 million goalkeepers, for example. So if I can, I want to have one, and Mendy, I think. Mendy or Leno, look like decent sort of well-priced goalkeepers to do that strategy with, because the fixtures are pretty decent till the end of the season.
Yeah.
But if you're not worried about it, then yeah, I think something like Lloris and Leno, or Martinez and Leno probably is the way to go, or Edison. I still prefer Edison, but he is the price is the lot, isn't he? Because he's 6.
And the thing is, he won't get you any. Well, maybe they will concede chances a bit more towards the end of the season as they.
Well, nor would Mendy, to be fair. Mendy and Edison are pretty similar in that regard. I mean, Edison might be on pens. Imagine.
There is that. Well, at the end of the season,
imagine.
No, I think we know he's on pens from now on. Now Aguero's moted his retirement. I think a penalty in the final game, in his final home game, that's going to happen, isn't it?
Do you know what? I was genuinely thinking today, Aguero might not be an awful option to the end of the season, and the chat's going to go mad because he's not. I don't think City are going to play with Aguero or Jesus in the Champions League.
No, they're going to play false nine.
That isn't first choice, right? Because they're going to play false 9. So does that mean Aguero should actually play the majority of minutes between now and the end of the season in the league? Imagine if he just is like first choice striker in the league to the end of the season.
Well, I'll tell you what, that last game against Everton, surely he starts that and gets taken off.
I made that mistake last year, though.
Yeah, but the crowd are going to be there, right? We think.
David Silva.
Yeah, true.
I got him in, captained him on the free hit last year. Awful. But I mean, it is Aguero. But he's not fit. He's not right. He's not. So he's put on a few pounds, bless him. Haven't we all? But I don't know if I trust him. But it's the kind of this is the kind of thing that Luke and I are talking about, though. If you wanted to get in someone who no one else is going to have, Aguero, maybe? I don't know. I don't want to advocate it, but it's an idea.
But like you say, I think you're right. I think that they will play the false 9 in Europe, and I think that Jesus and Aguero are more likely to play in league matches as a result of that. I look at that and think it is set up with the City crowd there for that final home game. Surely Aguero starts that. Or maybe he just comes on. I mean, maybe he comes on to an ovation and scores a penalty. I don't know, but it's all set up for him, isn't it? So
he can't go to another Premier League team.
Oh no.
I mean, I'm obviously not a big City fan. I mean, I've got Sterling on my wall, but that moment of Aguero, which they're replaying over and over and over again, you know. But like, I watch it every time I see it posted on one of these things. I watch it, and I still can't quite believe that happened. It's got to be the greatest moment ever in football. Like, unless you're a United fan, I guess.
There was that goal for Trent Alexander-Arnold at Spurs. That was a great moment. That one when Mane had the shot, and then I don't think you saw it, did you? You came back into.
I missed that one.
That was probably for me the best moment in football. But other than that, no.
You messaged me. It was the best FPL moment of my life.
No, but I
even rivals at the time.
No, it's true. I don't see. I mean, Aguero's going to go America or China or a big deal like that, or maybe he's got more to offer. Maybe he'll go, Spain or Italy. I don't know. I haven't really thought about his. But whether it be a factor of the rest of the season, I just can't see it. I can't see it. I wouldn't take a risk on him. That's for sure. And,
wouldn't you really? What if you were Chelsea or Arsenal, Arteta.
No, I mean for my FPL team. I mean, I hardly took a risk on him when he was fully fit. I'm just not. I've never been.
I was going to say Nottingham Forest in for Aguero.
We'll have him. But I mean, I've never been his biggest fan. It's really weird. He's had like an illustrious Premier League career. He's been a fantastic FPL asset. And Tom wanted me to go on to the FPL show to talk about Aguero, and I was thinking to myself, I'm the last person to talk about Aguero. I've hardly ever had him. I think. Probably total game weeks I've had Aguero in my FPL team are probably less than a full season. I have him now and again, and I have him for double game weeks. I never have him for a sustained run.
That's great. Is it complete opposite for me?
Is it?
I always moved for him early after injuries, and he always took a little while to get going. But I just always remember whenever he played Spurs, it didn't matter what other fixture there was that week, it would be Aguero captain versus Spurs. And when he got those 4 goals against Spurs, it was just like the greatest, and it's burnt me as well. I remember I brought him in. I remember swapping Costa out for Aguero. Costa had Swansea at home. Even I was like, Aguero's back. I'm gonna get Aguero. I got Aguero in, and he blanked, and Costa got like 2 goals and an assist or something. So it's burnt me as well. But to me, when I think about FPL, Aguero is the one. He is the kind of. in terms of like just the guy who just did everything, and like I'd watch him play, and I just think he's brilliant. I wish I could be like Aguero, like on the football pitch. He's got, he's so good.
The thing is, I think
I'm gonna be really sad when he goes.
I think for me, I've always had that love affair with Kane, and it always got in the way. So as soon as Kane became a heavy hitter, there's no room for Aguero for me.
I never had that with Kane. See, I've owned Kane for quite a lot. Kane has got me like loads of good moments in my FPL career, but I've never FPL careers, everything FPL life, whatever it is. But I never have the same like affiliation with him as I do Aguero. I love Aguero.
Well, I'm sure Late Riser's got a shrine to him, and I'm sure that Late Riser will be looking at these fixtures. When can I get him in for one final? I wouldn't be surprised if Late Riser's got nothing to play for in that final game week that he'll get him in and captain him for Gameweek 38. It's the kind of thing he would do as a gesture.
I wouldn't be surprised if Late Riser's got everything to play for and triple captains him for.
Well, yeah, that's true. 38. He loves him so much. So it'd be a nice fitting tribute to him from one of the big FPL managers who loves him as a player. Let's start looking at some team data because we talked about City's defence. And what's interesting, they were the top defence, right, over the season for so long. And Tuchel's influence, as soon as Tuchel came in for Chelsea, we saw him shore up that defence. And he rotated and he just kept the team fresh. And now he's established them as the top defence over the season. In terms of minutes per XG conceded, they're out in top ahead of City. And they're out on top over the last four as well. And City are down there now, over the last four matches, down in fifth. And I think that's an indication that with the Laporte coming in and rotating with Stones, Diaz, I agree, I think remains nailed on. He'll get a rest every now and again. But the fact that he doesn't have a settled partner there, the fact that there's going to be disruption in the defence across the back four, I'm sure, with Mendy and Walker being rotated and Zinchenko and Cancelo, of course, that has disrupted them to the point where they're dropping down the defensive rankings. And I that's why I'm not keen on just going with Diaz, even though he's reliable.
Yeah, I mean, what I do like about Diaz and Stones, and what I've always liked about the centre backs, is that you've got De Bruyne putting in the crosses, and Diaz's stats have been good all season, and it's surprising he's only had one goal. I think is it one goal, one assist he's got.
I think it is.
The assist was a block shot, and Stones is starting to rack up the goals now, but you kind of feel like it could turn and be Diaz. Can I just ask on the second chart, you got Chelsea not applicable for mins per big chance conceded. Does that mean they haven't conceded any big chances over the last 4 games?
Yeah.
I mean, what is going on there? Like, he's brought in Alonso, Rudiger, Christensen, and now they suddenly don't concede any big chances. I don't understand how he's done what he's done. It is unbelievable how well he has structured that defence, and they don't even seem that great, like on paper, but they clearly are.
Well, it's not. I guess they're defending better as a team, aren't they? And it makes you wonder, what was Lampard doing wrong that Tuchel's come in, spotted straight away and corrected immediately? It is. I mean, I've never seen. We see a bounce, and normally that bounce is in. They shore things up for 4 or 5 games, then it starts reverting to the norm. But it's not happening for Chelsea, is it? It's like an immediate effect, and it's transformation of that defence. I mean, under Lampard, Mendy was starting to look dodgy. I was thinking, oh dear, maybe they haven't got a good keeper here. Mendy was looking like he was low on confidence. James was making mistakes because he was in my team, hanging on my team at the time. And yeah, I mean, it's very odd. It's very odd.
This isn't Tony Pulis, who like all the players have turned against. This is like Chelsea's greatest ever player, like must command such a respect in the dressing room anyway. And then suddenly he goes and the players. I mean, you look at Rudiger and Alonso though, 2 players that Lampard completely shunned from the squad. So they obviously have got a kind of point to prove. Well, as Plaqueta to an extent as well, because he wasn't getting in the team over James.
That's right.
So there might be a bit of that in it. Players with a real, you shouldn't have dropped me, Frank. Like, what were you thinking? Look what I'm capable of now. But like you say, I'd expect that to last over a couple of weeks, not up until now. It's not to this extent. It is crazy.
Yeah, and they're just by far and away now the strongest. And this week's fixture at home to West Brom, just looks like the most obvious clean sheet I've ever seen. Which is why obviously Alonso is the poster boy, and we'll look at some stats in a bit to reveal just why we have to consider him so strongly as if you're going to pick a differential, if you're going to make a punt and play the wild card in 31, Alonso for me is head and shoulders, and we'll look at that in a bit. But just another thing to point out in the team data over the season, 3 of the bottom defences are key to this game week. We've got Newcastle host Spurs, who are 5th from bottom, Sheffield United, who go to Leeds, who are 2nd from bottom, and West Brom, who go to Spurs, who are bottom of our defensive data. So, Spurs, Leeds, Chelsea, these are the teams that we're looking at for this game week to really provide goals and provide points. And I think, if you're not going in with 2 or 3 Leeds, 2 or 3 Spurs, and you're not taking a punt on a Chelsea player, then you're going to be worried, aren't you, with those defences on show?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think most people have got 2 to 3 leads anyway, because you had the double game week, you had the blank, and the same with Spurs as well. I think pretty much everyone who's taken this game seriously has got Kane in it at this point. Son, I think, is one of the most highly transferred out players because of the red flag, but I still think a lot of engaged managers have kept him because they kind of knew he was going to play this game. I think Bale is the really tricky one. Like, I've had a lot of questions about what to do with Bale if you've got him in, and we touched on it a couple of days ago because, well, firstly, he could be blocking you from Son in this game. You might have even done Son to Bale, but secondly, you don't really want to lose Bale because if he does start in that game, it's a bit of a sideways move, isn't it? And it means you haven't been able to target some of the other better fixtures. I still think if you've got Bale, I would still sell him. I would just move him for Son.
Would you do? I mean, we don't know that Son is 100% fit yet and available, but if we hear
been training, there's training photos of him today. Right. He'll start. Yeah, I'd be amazed if he's. I'd be amazed if he didn't start, and I'd be amazed if Bale started. Is my answer.
Yeah, I can't see Bale starting because I think Moore's got the start. And that's the front 3, I think.
They won comfortably without Bale in the team after losing twice pretty much with him in the team. I mean, he didn't start in Europe, but he came on and was a large part of, well, many think a large part of the reason why they lost, because the goals came down the side he was on. I would move Bale to Son, and I'd probably do it for a hit, is my answer.
Blimey. I'm not sure I'd do it for a hit, but I know what you're saying, because he's done that right side. They can't expose Aurier to the attack, and Bale does nothing to get back and help out.
He won't start.
No.
The only chance I think he's got of getting on is if Newcastle either a 0-0 at half time or if Newcastle go ahead, and I can't see that happening either. So that's what I think. But.
And just one more thing before we move on from this. Down the bottom of the last 4 matches defence, Sheffield United, it's 19 big chances they've conceded in the last 4 matches. And we'll look at that in relation to the captaincy later on. But, yeah, that is worth noting. So the attack, Chelsea over the season, their defence is doing well. They're still 4th overall for the attack, and over the last 4, they're 6th. So actually, my instant reaction to the data on Chelsea was they're doing great in defence, not really threatening an attack. And it makes me look more at their defence in this game week and with the wild card than it does their attacking options. But of course, the other problem with Chelsea's attack is the rotation. And I know there's a lot of people on the community looking at the likes of Havertz and Mount and even Werner. But for me, I mean, they all were very active. I think all 3 of them started all 3 internationals. And did you see Werner's miss, by the way?
Oh my God!
Wow.
Yeah, not good.
It's not good. I mean, it's not for the first time. It's just utterly bizarre how a player who came to this Premier League as an elite finisher has just really struggled for confidence, I guess. But yeah, so those 3, yeah, they are tempting. If they were a regular start, if we knew they were going to start, I would absolutely. And Havertz was a player I was thinking of going. Gundogan to Havertz was a move that I was considering. But having seen him be so active over the break, I just want certainty. I want to make sure that this transfer I make for this game week counts. And so for me, it's got to be Alonso over an attacking player, because Chilwell started for England and Alonso didn't go away, of course. So, I mean, is that how you feel? Would you consider any Chelsea attacker in the wild card?
Nope, I'm afraid not. I want to make a case for Havertz. I want to make a case for Pulisic or Werner or any of them, but I don't know who's going to play. First of all, like you just said, it's a complete lottery. I think Havertz will probably play in that kind of 10 role-ish, but I don't trust him even if he plays. Like I'm seeing people like really taking a punt on Havertz and thinking, some people even thinking about captaining him and stuff. But like, what's the best case scenario you're hoping for from Havertz? He's not a player who's done anything this season to make you like trust him. I think there's potential there. We've talked about it before. I think eventually we will see the player that they bought, but it's too big of a gamble for me at the moment. Werner's just a non-option. Mount looks a solid pick. I wouldn't captain him. I think he could get a goal or an assist, but he was a doubt for the England game. Played the England game, did well. They've got Champions League coming up. He's becoming more and more important to Chelsea and England as well. I wouldn't be surprised if he missed out at the weekend too. So can I advise him as well? I think he's a good option to the end of the season. But talking about 1 week, every single sign points to Alonso this week. It really does.
Yeah, it's a shame because Havertz was definitely in the reckoning, and you spoke about your doubts about the Gundogan start, and that's what I was looking at as an option. And if I thought Havertz was starting, the captaincy on Havertz isn't crazy. You say he's number 10. I mean, like Tuchel's come and said, but he's literally a number 9. And in that Leeds game, I watched him, and I know a few people took a punt on him there, and he did. I looked at it and thought he showed up. He had chances. He didn't take the chances, but you could see he was taking up positions where he will get points if he continues in that role. But
I just can't imagine him getting a brace or getting a hat trick. I just can't see it. I can't visualize it in my mind. And I think this week there's so many good picks, like you mentioned, with Spurs and Leeds, that I don't know. I'm much more comfortable of a Chelsea clean sheet and a kind of a 1-0, 2-0 win than Chelsea really going mad against West Brom and Havertz hitting 15 points. So yeah, I don't know. If you were offering me right now, Alonso captain or Havertz captain, I'd pick Alonso every time.
Yeah, I mean, looking at that data there over the season, West Brom's attack is the weakest as well. So you're pitching the season's weakest attack against the season's strongest defence. And although West Brom over the last 4 have been mid-table when you look at minutes per XG, they've shown some threat because obviously they're trying to fight for their lives. And Dino up front has looked like he's getting in the right positions to take opportunities, but they're so low on quality in chart. I mean, that Newcastle home game where both teams were just... They had opportunities, but they just had no quality in the final third. I can't see West Brom scoring at Chelsea.
And they haven't got Gallagher as well, who's literally been the best player all season. Sam Allardyce has come out and said, if we stay up this year, we really want to keep him. You ain't staying up, mate. Sorry, you're done. But yeah, not having him as well it's just another. It's just everything just points, doesn't it, to West Brom not getting anything out of that match. It'd be a miracle if they got a point in that match, I think.
Well, he got a point at Anfield, and at the time we thought that was a miracle. But then another 5 teams went there and won, didn't they? So
yeah, that's true.
So you're talking about Alonso. I think it's about time we looked at some data for him. So it didn't take me long to find data to kind of back up the theory that Alonso is a good pick. I mean, you can say that, we're trying to sell the narrative here with data, but
sell it. It's Alonso. You talk about Aguero being this guy who encapsulates FPL for me. Alonso is the other one. I mention it all the time. But I will never forget. I was half watching a match. It was Chelsea v Arsenal.
Yeah.
And I think I was on my iPad or something. And I looked up and a cross came in and someone just side-footed it into the goal. And I just remember thinking, Morata's got a goal. And looking down, I look back up and it's just Alonso wheeling away. And there was absolutely no reason why Alonso should have been playing in a striker position in that match in the box. It was just like a regular counter-attack. It wasn't like from a corner or something. And that's just Alonso in a nutshell. He's just an absolutely ridiculous person to own because he takes free kicks, he pops up in the box, he's got an amazing finish on him. He is
free kicks as
FPL.
well.
Oh, he's just great. He really is great.
So let us have our fun for 1 week and let us pick Alonso.
All the signs.
Let us find the data to back it up, and we did. And as I said, I didn't have to manufacture this. So just looking at data in terms of expected goal involvement, last 6 matches, all defenders, he's ranked 4th. Now this is the last 6 matches played, not the last 6 game weeks. So that's why Justin is in there. So it's all defenders, last 6 matches, and in terms of touches in the box, he's well out in front. In terms of shots, only Veltman's got anywhere near him over these last 6 matches. Alonso's had 13, Veltman's 10 shots in the box as well. Alonso, I mean, that's not on the end of set pieces either. That's not your big centre half going forward set piece. That is him getting in the box and taking shots. And he's also created 10 chances. So he's also, the creative side of his game. His crossing's not bad, but we never had him down for like a Luca Dina kind of character, is he? Where he's massively creative, but getting in crosses as well, creating chances. He's 3rd for chances in terms of the top 10 defenders for expected goal involvement last 6 matches. So he's the all-round package, isn't he? And in a way, I look at this and think, well, maybe he's just as likely to get an attacking return as Havertz anyway, given his capabilities.
Completely, because I still don't think Havertz isn't playing as a full-on number 9, is he? He's not playing as like striker.
Well,
you think he?
The Tuchel's said as much, but yeah.
Wow, I still think Havertz's best position is someone who drops down and creates things and links things together. He's not like Aguero style finisher, is he? Like always looking to make. I think when they play with that system, they're looking for him to almost link stuff up. And actually, when you've got a player like that who links stuff up, it allows players like Alonso to bomb forward even more. I mean, I might be completely wrong about that. I'm not a massive Havertz expert. And even this season, Havertz has played in so many different positions for Chelsea. It's hard to know exactly what his best role is. But yeah, that's how I think. I think Havertz is a player who will. His quality will bring other players more into the game. As I said, if I'm picking one, I'm picking Alonso every day.
Yeah, and I think when Chilwell started that game for England over Shaw, that just booked it in for me. Because I felt that Alonso would have to get the nod anyway, but when Chilwell's in action midweek and Alonso didn't go away on duty, it really did book it in for me. So I don't need any convincing, to be honest.
No, I think Alonso starts in the Champions League as well. Because I think that is, I think Alonso is part of Tuchel's best team at the moment because he fits that system he plays. He is the perfect player for that system. He can't go into that Champions League game with Alonso having not played in 2 weeks. I wouldn't have thought. And I think Alonso plays and then plays in the Champions League. And Chilwell doesn't play either. That's what I think.
We have obviously got the luxury of wildcarding him out in 31, right? But if you didn't have a wild card, would you still take the punt on Alonso and hold him? No, because of the cash.
I just wouldn't do it. I love him. I love him to pieces, but it's too stressful every week. Like rule 1 of FPL, don't get in a player where every week you're looking at the team sheet thinking, oh my God, is he going to start? I do actually think Alonso is the kind of player who could come on at half time or come on at 60 minutes if they're chasing a game. Chelsea don't score many goals. So there could be plenty of games where they're 0-0 or 1-0 down or struggling a little bit. Chilwell, I don't think has the full faith of Tuchel as well. So if Chilwell's not playing well, he could be the first person to come off for Alonso.
Yeah, we've seen it, haven't we? He's brought Chilwell off before the hour mark even.
Yeah. These are all things I don't want that. I just don't want that in my team. For 1 week, this is what I mean. All the stars aligned for him this week, but I wouldn't want him in my team to the end of the season.
Yeah, which means he is the darling of people with the wild card, really, because that's one of the reasons why I'm looking at him, because I know that managers without the wild card probably won't go there. So it makes him even more appealing. Okay, let's look at some player data over the season.
Oh, just quickly. As per the will be on my wildcard team, 100%.
Really? That'll be your Chelsea defender, not Rudiger.
Yeah,
Why Azpilicueta? Why Dave?
As Pepe. Well, firstly, I think he's the most nailed on because he's captain.
Yeah, that's
and
given,
it was one of the things where early in the season I was quite surprised that Lampard wasn't using him more because it was a back line that was lacking in leadership. I thought, especially when Thiago Silva was missing kind of the odd game. I remember us talking about me saying when Thiago Silva misses out, Azpilicueta is more likely to play because over James and all this. But I really like Azpilicueta in that centre back in the back three. I think that's where he can really kind of command stuff. But he can also move over to right wing back. Who knows who is? Hudson-Odoi plays there, James plays there, Azpilicueta plays there, and everyone. So, and I like his kind of threat that he offers. And yeah, Rudiger is a good option, but I think Azpilicueta just has that slight more attacking threat. Well, he's nailed on my wildcard.
Until I can pronounce him, I can't possibly get him in. So that's him on Aubameyang out of the equation. This is just player data over the season, looking at expected goal involvement on penalty. And the name that I highlighted there first, we've spoken about Bale, Kane, Bamford, Raphinha as players that obviously going into this game week look very strong indeed. But Iheanacho is a player that suddenly made his way into almost every wild card in town, hasn't he? And quite rightly, I mean, Leicester's fixtures are ridiculously strong. We looked at the ticker for double figures and we revealed that they had, let's bring that up in fact, they had this cluster between 32 and 35 where they play teams that are very, very obliging. So we go to 32 and 35. They're playing West Brom, Palace, Southampton, Newcastle, 3 home games in that run. And so I think we've got to get Vardy for that run. And it's not a big stretch then to look at Iheanacho as well, given his price tag. So is he a player in your wild card?
I still don't rate him particularly highly as a player. He's a very good finisher. You got to give him that. And when he was at City, he kind of made a name for himself. But then you look at City and you think they were creating so many chances that he's bound to finish it. I do think this is a bit of a purple patch for him. Madison's back as well. Yeah. I wonder what's gonna because obviously Madison fits back in that team straight away. What happens with Iheanacho? Is his place more at risk? I still don't really see. I mean, he's kind of taken the position of Barnes, right? Because Barnes is out, so you would still expect him to start and play. I still think Madison and Vardy is the strongest two to go with, depending on what happens with Madison, how quickly he gets up to speed. What I do like about Iheanacho is his price, though. And if you're looking at moving Bamford, for example, to Iheanacho, I think I can see why, but I don't think I'm going to end up with Iheanacho. Yeah, like I said, I find it difficult to go for players who I don't particularly rate as a player, but are hitting a good run of form, because I always worry that they're going to not be in that form.
Yeah, I think James.
He's been at Leicester for years and not done anything.
James Richardson in the chat is saying, I don't know if it's the James Richardson again, but it's hard to drop Iheanacho, surely, which is a good point. In the form he's in, he's not going to get dropped anytime soon. But Rodgers does have options like in wide areas, so he can change the system to play Madison behind Vardy, which is first choice. It's Madison in the 10 behind Vardy, isn't it? And then either wing backs with 3 at the back, or wingers there. I don't think naturally he goes to a front 2. He has gone to that recently because of the injury situation with Madison and Barnes. So I do think that Iheanacho is probably a couple of bad games away from being at threat. That's the problem. And you possibly don't want that. But I guess he's so cheap that you would just bench him.
Well, it's Iheanacho over Vardy, I think. Do you need to spend that much money on Vardy when you could have Iheanacho? Because this is the thing. If you've got Bamford, you could just do Bamford to Iheanacho, and sit with that. If you go for Vardy, I talked about all the premiums earlier. It's hard to have. You can't have. I can't have De Bruyne, Fernandes, Kane, Vardy, Salah. As all these fairly expensive players for their position in the team. I don't think I don't think at the moment there's enough between Iheanacho and Vardy to make me think I've got to have Vardy. But at the same time, I don't know. It's gonna come down to the wildcard. I haven't currently made a wildcard team with Vardy.
Have you not? So you've gone bigger in, because it's interesting. You're talking about De Bruyne, Salah. I haven't looked at either of those two players. I've gone Jota. I mean, going back to my plan, I won't bring it up again because I don't want to give too much away because you haven't really thought of the idea of doing a similar plan yet. So I don't want to keep on about that. But
such a shit
but yeah, I'm not looking at Salah or De Bruyne at the moment, and I'm thinking of going. I mean, it's just those fixtures as we talked about there. That run, West Brom, Palace, Southampton, Newcastle, is so strong for Leicester. I don't want to just go in with Iheanacho in case he does get benched.
Yeah, no, I get that.
And it's like I'm more inclined to look at Madison in midfield with Vardy than go with a De Bruyne or Salah at the moment, because I just think Jota, Gundogan, they're alternatives to both De Bruyne and Salah who make good cases, right? It's just whether or not, obviously, I think De Bruyne's a more certain starter than Gundogan at the moment. Salah's certainly a more certain starter than Jota, but I don't think Jota's not going to play. I mean, Liverpool in such malaise that I think that Jota's got to play.
And look at Jota over the international. I mean, he's been single-handedly winning Portugal points. Yeah, I mean, the thing with Salah is I meant more. I want to have the option to move for Salah. I might not have him on the wild card, but I want to. I still think I don't want to write him off because it's Salah, and I still think he could play a part between them. If he scores a couple of goals and it's a couple of games. It's going to be like, oh God, it's Salah. They're going for top 4 again, and out of the Champions League maybe, and suddenly he's someone we want to get. I guess going for Vardy does allow you to swap it round, but it's harder when you've got money invested up front and you need to, kind of move all the funds around your team.
Yeah,
and I think Iheanacho could rival Vardy. What I'd want to see is a few more games of Iheanacho, but we don't really have that luxury if the wildcard's coming. But I think Madison is in for me.
You're going to get Madison in on the World Cup.
Oh, he's my boy.
Really?
He's my boy, Mark. He's with those fixtures. There's no, I can't see any way in which I won't end up with Madison if he's fit on my wildcard team. I'm buzzing for it. I haven't owned him all season.
Yeah, it's funny actually when you talked him up, he came back in and he did absolutely fire for a run of 4 or 5 matches, and you didn't get him, and you must have regretted that. But he's always struck me as a player that I don't know. He has bursts, and I think they're quite hard to predict. And when you expect him to fire, he doesn't quite deliver, and then he'll get a goal away at Liverpool or something like that, and really take you by surprise. I think.
Well, did you see his interview he did?
Yeah.
The interview he did where he said, I've been talking to my attacking coaches and I'm getting more up front and I want to score more goals. I mean, he's on everything. He's on free kicks. He's on corners. He should be like the perfect FPL player. He's so, a bit like when Sigurdsson was at Swansea and he just took everything and, he's playing for a better team than Swansea were at the time. The thing is, I really rate him. I used to watch him in the Championship for Norwich and I knew he was good. And so that's why I had him when he first joined the Premier League. I thought he was going to be a big player. And I just love everything about it. I love his interviews. I love his the way he carries himself on the pitch. I think he's class. And with the opportunity to bring him in, I'm well up for it. So yeah, he's definitely in. It's just what I do with the other, because I think you're right. I think we need to be thinking, how can we maximise our Leicester potential, because their fixtures are so good. So you've got Vardy, you've got Iheanacho, then you've got the defence as well. Fofana, Soyuncu, but you don't rate them either.
Well, I might go Schmeichel. I don't like Schmeichel. I don't really want him. But
you're not going to go Schmeichel.
No, I mean the keepers. I look at the Leicester defence, and Pereira obviously offers an attacking threat, right? So he is one player that you can look at. But I don't trust the defence. I'm happy to load on the attack, and Madison is certainly tempting me as well. Because you're absolutely right. I like him as a player. I've just never been able to hit his returns. I've always seemed to miss them. And he's one of those players as well. When you watch him, you think, oh, he looks amazing, creating plenty. He blanked, but I'll keep faith in him. Watch the next game. Oh, he looked amazing. He created plenty. I'll keep faith. You watch the third game. Yeah, I'll keep. And he just plays really well, doesn't return. And then you never want to get rid of him. And then it's like, oh, God, I've kept him for 4 blanks in a row. And that's the problem with him.
Yeah. No, that's exactly. And we saw it with Ziyech. It happens with Ziyech.
Yeah.
He's that kind of player. Odegaard as well. He's probably going to enter into that thing. A player who looks, every time you watch him, man of the match, all the commentators talking about him, you watch him, God, what an amazing player, but never quite does. The thing with Madison as well is he drops deep quite a lot as well. So he likes to orchestrate things in midfield. So if things aren't quite going Leicester's way, he drops back and makes things happen from a deep position, which is awful for FPL. It's great for Leicester, but it's not great for
I tell you
for
why
us.
he tempts me as well. It's the England squad, right? Because I think he's surely. I mean, it's the same for Grealish as well. Grealish and Madison would have sat there watching England play these 3 matches on the sidelines, thinking, oh, I'm close to fitness, I'm close to return. I've got 8 or 9 games now where I can try and push. Both of those 2 players, I think, could fly over the final period. Because they're the kind of players who can, if they want to lift themselves, give that extra 10% and affect matches, they can do it.
Completely agree. And England squad-wise, Grealish on the left, no-brainer, right? But obviously, he's got the Sterling competition going on. So if Southgate decides to play Sterling and suddenly he's got the 3 in midfield, Henderson, Rice and whatever, I don't think it is a clear winner between Grealish and Madison for that top of the 3. No, I don't, because Madison is more comfortable playing in that position anyway.
I give you that.
Madison thrives in that kind of central area. And I'm not saying Grealish can't do it. I think Grealish is absolutely class. But I think it's Grealish on the left, or it's a difficult decision between him and Madison in the centre, personally.
I don't think Madison is near yet. He's near the 11. I don't think he's even in the squad at the moment. I think he's got lots to prove, which is why... I know, of course. But I think this is why he is a player that I am going to consider, because I think, like, you know, he's like a Lingard. He's a player who, when he's on it, he can add that extra, and it shows. And you said yourself, you talked about his coaching and how he wants to get more goals and assists. When you hear a player talking about, I want to get more goals and assists, you've got to take him seriously. Yeah.
It's great, isn't it? My ears just like, well, my ears, my eyes are like, oh, Madison wants more goals. Oh, this is great.
Yeah. Well, it's just when he says goals, it's like you might as well say, I want to be a better fantasy player. Might as well say that. That's what and then it's really talking our language.
Well, I mean, plenty of people in the chat say about Mount as well.
Yeah.
So the competition for that
huge.
10 role is massive, and like you say, you know, there's people saying in the chat as well, Madison might not even make the squad.
No, I don't think he will.
I mean, yeah, he might. So you've got to think he's going to have a strong end to the season. If
huge,
he wants to get
I mean, Mount's got the shirt at the moment. I think Mount's got it over Grealish at the moment. So Grealish has got a point to prove, I think. But, you know, whether I go there, I just don't know.
I live in the real world, not the fantasy world.
Isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Right, let's look at player data last 4 games. And this is why Iheanacho, so look at him, right up there, second in terms of minutes per expected goal involvement non-penalty over the last 4 matches. Like you say, is it just a purple patch, or can he sustain it over the run that we looked at, those run of fixtures? It's really difficult to nail down.
It's very hard to back against a striker in form.
True.
Because I know we hear all this stuff about, you know, there's no such thing as form and all that. Strikers are all about confidence. And I can remember years ago when I had Odion Ighalo in my team, and he was absolutely smashing it, and he came to a really, really rough run of fixtures, and I got rid of him because I was like, there's no way he's going to sustain this. He just kept scoring like every week, and like he was playing for Watford, like no real reputation and stuff, and just kept on doing it. It's very difficult to, you know, if I had Iheanacho in my team, would I be selling him on a wild card? Given what he's
no, of course not. No.
Well, exactly. So why wouldn't I be considering him on a wild card if I had him? It's kind of going against, you know, it's interesting, isn't it? That's a psychological aspect. It's 2 different.
And maybe you're right. I mean, we're looking at going Vardy or Iheanacho. Maybe the price tag just blinds us. Maybe we think Vardy's on penalties and he's the more expensive, so he's the one to go for. Yeah. But on current form, there is no doubt who you go for.
If I was wildcarding this week, I'd have Iheanacho over Vardy.
Right. Because you're going to go bigger in midfield than me. That's why. Yeah. You're going to go a De Bruyne or a Salah. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I still, like I said, I still do feel a bit weird about it because I don't particularly rate Iheanacho.
Well, we'll see. Well, we're going to see a bit more of Kane.
Is that what you want?
Yeah, we're going to see a lot more Kane, Son, and Raphinha and Bamford when we look at the captaincy. I think we'll do our predictions first, and then we'll get onto the captaincy and our teams. So let's just look at the predictions table as it stands. 105 matches played between us now, and I am 34 points ahead. I'm just doing the maths there. My maths was correct. I don't know how I'm 34 points ahead. Your percentage correct has dropped down to 44.8. I'm still hovering just under 50%. And correct scores 14.3% to your 6.7. You're lagging behind.
That's why your points are ahead, because you're killing me on the correct scores.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Sorry.
Yes. Sorry. Let's look at this week. Let's see if you can pull it back with this week's fixture. It seems ages ago since we did predictions.
I know.
So let's see if you're bringing your A game for these ones. Okay, so what's a problem with the captaincy for me is I almost want to look for any reason not to go Kane, right? I'm always looking at, and I've got to say, Raphinha, Alonso, these are players, Bamford, that are tempting me. The problem is, Alonso, Raphinha and Bamford all play first. They play on Saturday. You got the early kickoff, then you got... And that shouldn't be a problem, right? If I went on Twitter and said, I'm selecting my captain because I don't want him to go in the first two games, I would start an argument almost as if I was, talking about effective ownership, that kind of argument, that kind of beef that I would set off. It'd be one of those again. So maybe I should, just to try and see what it's like, see what you experience. But yeah, I don't want to feel that, but I do. I just don't want my game week to be almost, ruined 2 games in. So
I would love to say to you right now that you're an idiot and you should never think of it. But I feel exactly the same way. I hate captaining a player in the early kickoff. And I know it can set you up well and all that stuff, but I like the hope and the optimism that's extinguished on Monday at 8 p.m. I live for that. Yeah, especially when it's a differential as well. If you it's one thing captaining like Salah in the early game, but like captaining like Havertz in the early game, like Salah blanks and everyone else has done it, you kind of feel
you go down together, basically. A
thing. And after all my talk about EO and all this stuff, I don't like to say, but it's a psychological aspect to the game. It's the community, it's everything. I try and not base my decisions on that, but you have to acknowledge there's a psychological.
But it comes down to, and this is one of the things that we don't appreciate, right? We play this game for fun. And I know it's almost like we forget that. It's almost like we take the enjoyment and fun factor out of it because it's almost like, it's not hip or cool to talk about playing the game for fun. But we do. I mean, it's like this. If I didn't enjoy it, if I didn't get some sense of joy from playing fantasy football, I wouldn't play it. Because, to be honest, it warps my enjoyment of football so much that it's got to give me something back in return. And it does. It gives me back loads, and it allows me to do this with you. It allows me to engage with a great community and have fun with everybody, and it's brilliant. I absolutely love it for that. But I want to enjoy my weekend, and to enjoy my weekend, I don't want it ruined by my captain flunking in the first game.
But every single person who listens to this pod, I don't care what they say on Twitter, will agree with that.
I know they will, but it's not very BlackBox, is it? Because BlackBox is, what are you doing bringing that kind of theory and emotion into your thinking? That is absolutely crazy. And I want to resist it. I want to fight against it. And I want to go, I think Alonso or Raphinha are the best captains, so I'm going with them. Doesn't matter when they play. I almost don't want to look at the kickoff times. But it is a factor, and it's...
I'll tell you the exact trouble. The trouble is, right, you captain Havertz against West Brom, and Havertz blanks, right? So then you're watching Spurs Newcastle, terrified that Kane's gonna blank. You captain Havertz versus West Brom and Havertz gets 18 points. You're then watching Spurs and Newcastle, hoping that Kane doesn't do anything because every goal he does chips away at your massive green arrow that you've got. So there's no win. There's no win for you, no matter what Havertz does in that first game.
I know, and this is when we talked about effective ownership last week with the captaincy, and I said I picked Kane because I wanted to enjoy that Newcastle game. I think it's a very valid reason. It's not valid in terms of the optimal way of playing. Sorry, I didn't want to mention that. It really isn't. And I totally agree. And there'll be people out there taking their eyes off their mathematical models, shaking their heads now as I said that, right? I understand it's not the way of playing. But I want to enjoy playing this game. So therefore, I'm going to pick my team and my captaincy and my transfers with that as a factor, I'm afraid. And that probably means I'm never going to win it, right? But I'm going to enjoy it more by doing that.
I have to say though, to the flip side of that is that in some ways I do find it a bit of a relief after my captains played in the first game, even if they've blanked, because when I have to wait until Spurs Newcastle or on Sunday, I'm so like, I don't know, I'm so wired to that game, and then I watch the game and it starts, and then I'm so stressed.
Oh yeah, I know.
That they're not going to get anything, and then they blank, and then I'm like, well, now I just feel even worse than if I had done if I had captain if I had gone for the
psychology of the captaincy, and I think it was Mode who said when I was on the show with him, I was on Wolf Pod, he hates the captaincy and he would rather not have it. And I do think there is a lot of psychology tied up in that, because you're picking one player that you're betting on to get you double points, and that can override and spoil your enjoyment of the game week. There's no doubt about it. And that, for me, is always a factor. When I pick my captain, I think, how can I maximise my enjoyment of this set of fixtures? And actually it does play into my decision, which is really bad, because that shouldn't do. And the whole point of this show is we're taking that out of things. But I think I think it's important to acknowledge that and say that.
We're getting slammed on the chat, Mark.
Yeah, I'm sure we are.
Very un-BlackBox.
I know, it totally is. It totally is. So I am going to try and fight against it, but I just wanted to mention that because it's in my mind for Chelsea West Brom. But anyway, I'm going to go first, and I'm going to say 2-0 Chelsea. Very dull. Lawrenson's prediction, but that's what I will go with.
I was going to say 2-0.
I bet you were.
And I will.
Yeah. Okay, fine. I don't see Chelsea winning by a rout, because they're not getting many goals. And they'll manage it out, won't they? And I just can't see West Brom scoring unless they get something off Bartley at a set piece or something, but I just can't see it. Leeds Sheffield United, I'll let you go first. I've got stronger opinions on this one.
Have you? Yeah, interesting one. Sheffield United, they put up a bit of a fight, didn't they, in the FA Cup game against Chelsea, but ultimately lost that. Leeds, again, a bit of a funny one. We're never really sure kind of what we're going to get at the moment, especially now they're pretty much safe and all that. But I mean, I'm not going to back against them to win it. So I'll go for another 2-0 Leeds.
I'm going to go 4-0 to Leeds.
Wow.
I just think
you've got to be considering Bamford or Raphinha captain.
I am wow. Very much so. Yeah, which is why I wanted to lead on that rant about that being a factor, because I want to go with Raphinha. I think I will end up going with Raphinha. You'll see in a bit that it's on Kane, but I want to go with Raphinha. I do think Leeds win this by a big margin. I just look at the 19 big chances conceded in the last 4 for Sheffield United. The fact that I know this is a derby, but there's no crowd there. It's a difficult surface upon, and Leeds have obviously got more time to get used to it. I look at the fact that Raphinha and Bamford haven't gone away for internationals. And in fact, you look at the number of Bielsa squad that has gone away, and it's quite a small, manageable number. So Bielsa's had 2 weeks with that team, and Sheffield United will go there. And I think if there's an early goal, there could be a cave-in again. We saw them lose heavily at Leicester. So I think I'm going to go a heavy victory for Leeds. I'm going to go 4-0, which, yes, absolutely. I think Bamford and Raphinha are good captain picks. Yeah, absolutely. Leicester, Man City. It's tricky because Man City will have one eye on Dortmund. Absolutely. Leicester's obviously got plenty to play for still. So I'm going to go a 1-1 draw.
You're going to go 1-1, Leicester City?
I have.
Oh, interesting. I'm not. I'm going to go 3-1 City. And I'm going to back at least 2 players to get double-digit hauls.
to take Leicester's tally of double-digit hauls conceded to 12 at home matches. Okay, fair enough. And that will probably link into maybe your captaincy chat in a bit. Arsenal versus Liverpool. I think this is a tough one to predict. I mean, in days of old, this was a 5-6 goal thriller. But under the guidance of Arteta and with Liverpool out of form, I just can't see a similar scoreline. I think Liverpool will win it. I'll go 2-1 Liverpool.
Yeah, Arsenal have done well in these games.
They have, actually.
I've been impressed with them. Liverpool, I don't know. I don't know what Liverpool are going to turn up. I refuse to believe that Liverpool are just going to like end this season like limp and crash out of Europe and finish like 8th in the league. It just seems completely ridiculous that could happen, but it's a possibility. At the same time, I like a lot of what I've seen from Arsenal, and the second half against West Ham. They completely fell apart in the first half, but the second half they're amazing. I mean, Odegaard. I bought in Odegaard thinking he could maybe get me an assist or something. He could have easily had a double-digit return in that West Ham game. He was absolutely fantastic. I'll go for a 1-1, nice and safe. I don't think either team is massively ahead of the other at the moment. I think they're both kind of on equal footing, so I'll just back a draw.
Yeah, and you're right. Arteta's done well in the big games. So I mean, I think 2-1 might be optimistic for Liverpool. Liverpool are becoming the hardest team to predict because you just do not know what's going to turn up, whether they're going to have an end product or not. But I will go with a victory for Liverpool. I think you're right. It's hard to believe that they're just going to fizzle out. Much depends on where they.
Then we've said that for like 10
I know.
weeks.
We keep saying, they'll turn it around, and they haven't done it. Jota could be a key figure now, though. I just think that him returning when he has, and in the form he's already shown Portugal, he could be the key figure there. He's got to be in my wild card, I think. If you don't go Salah, it's got to be Jota, I think. You've got to back Liverpool, I think, with the fixtures that they got. And Jota's just more palatable at the price. Southampton, Burnley. Oh, dear me. I mean, to a garden centre near you, isn't it, at 12 midday? That's perfect because you can get a cream tea in and get home for the Newcastle Spurs game when you've got Kane captain. So get out to your garden centre, get your conifers and your cream tea in, and then get back for that. But if you must watch Southampton Burnley, I would expect a 1-0 Southampton. But I've got Nick Pope in this, and actually I'm quite optimistic I might get something out. It might be a Burnley, when Burnley go to an unexpected and get a clean sheet and Pope gets a haul, it could happen. But I think Southampton win 1-0.
Right, I think you could definitely do an FPL BlackBox like bingo card. Be garden centre, spreadsheet, EO.
Yeah.
Me saying it's difficult, people like all that kind of stuff. There's
You haven't said that
kind of
yet.
drinking game or no, I haven't, and
well.
I've been monitoring myself. Thank you. Yeah, difficult this one.
Oh, I knew you'd say that.
I'm going to back a Burnley win.
Oh, yeah, exactly. This is the kind of game I look at and think, Chris Wood off his elbow, 1-0, Nick Pope heroics, could definitely be that, couldn't it?
Yeah, I'm going to back a 1-0 Burnley, Nick Pope heroics, Chris Wood off his elbow.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Genuinely am. I think Burnley will nick this. I think they'll nick it. It could be 2-1, but I'll back them with a clean sheet as well.
It's a shame we can't have any goals off the elbow anymore because of VAR. Another reason VAR's ruined football. Absolutely. None of those fluky goals off the arm that the referee doesn't notice. Newcastle versus Spurs then. Presumably, Kane captainers are going to back a heavy victory here. I just don't know. I mean, the problem I've got with this is my head is telling me, no, my heart is telling me that Newcastle are fighting for their lives, right? And they're not going to give an inch. And they're going to, defend stoutly and just not give Spurs any room. And Spurs will struggle to break them down. And there'll be a bit of magic from Kane and Son, and Spurs will win 1-0. But my head is telling me that Bruce has lost it. They've got no Isaac Hayden, and Newcastle are just going to fall apart, and it's going to be a rout. I'm going to go with my heart, though. I'm going to go with a 1-0 win for Spurs. I'm not going to go for a heavy win.
Okay. So, to me, between now and the end of the season, Newcastle are the team to target.
You're really sure about that, are you?
They're bad.
I know that,
bad.
But are they worse than Sheffield United and West Brom?
Yeah.
You do think that?
I think they are, and I've been chatting to. I've got a friend up in Birmingham who's a big Newcastle fan. I was talking to Tom, who does the FPL show, big Newcastle fan, and both of them said exactly the same thing. Is their biggest problem is that Newcastle don't look like they're being coached. They don't look like they have any plan whatsoever to deal with it. Like, they look at defending, they don't seem to know where their best positions are. They can't attack because they don't know where their players are supposed to be. And to an extent, that's been a little bit of a problem with Spurs. In that, I remember one of the players, maybe Alderweireld, saying that they don't intend to be a park the bus team. They just kind of end up like that way. or something like that. And it's like, well, surely you know what your identity is. Surely that's drilled in by the coach. And that's one of the reasons why I think Mourinho is not so universally liked within the Spurs fan base, and why I don't particularly like him, as the coach of Spurs. I don't really know what he's trying to get them to be. But yeah, you're looking at two teams who aren't particularly well coached. One of them's got a much better squad than the other, and I fancy Spurs to run out comfortable winners in this. I mean, earlier in the season they played. Do you remember how many shots Spurs had in that match at Spurs? I think they just about got over the line. I think that was the game when Son went off injured at half time, and it was a bit of a nightmare. But they could have won that game 4 or 5-0. Newcastle were a much worse team than they were then. I'm going to go for a 4-0 Spurs.
4-0 Spurs?
Yep. And that is rare for me. I do not often back a heavy Spurs win. I think I just think they're going to trounce them.
Well, if that happens, that's going to absolutely ruin my Sunday. Because if I don't go Kane captain, there's no way Kane stays quiet in a 4-0. Okay, well, we'll see. Yeah. I mean, I know it could go that way. It could get really messy. It depends. I mean, you'll be able to tell in the opening 10, 15 minutes how it's going to go. You know, if there's lots and lots of chances, if Dubravka's called into saves in the first 5, 10 minutes, then it's going to get bad. Yeah, I suspect you could be right. But equally,
it's just can Spurs put those chances away? Can they actually go for it and really make it count? And I'm gonna. It's rare for me to back Spurs to do that, but I am in this.
If Newcastle give up chances, Spurs will win heavily. I'm banking on Newcastle fighting for their lives and having a bit of spirit and heart. But you're saying Bruce has kicked that out of them weeks ago.
Yeah,
right.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay, well, we'll see. I'm still sticking to 1-0 Spurs, foolishly. Villa versus Fulham. Grealish back, I think. Dean Smith kind of said he's back, didn't he? He's kind of hedging his bets again. But I think Grealish is going to be back for this one. And he's got a point to prove, as we've said, with the missing out on the England games. He'll want to reinstate himself as what he was before, which was the Player of the Year contender. But Fulham, plucky Fulham, are still in the mix. And if Newcastle do get absolutely routed by Spurs, then Fulham will get the opportunity to close the gap. Villa aren't great shakes at the moment. And I think Fulham, again, every time I look at Fulham's fixtures, I think Fulham can get something here. And I think it again. It's just whether they can score a goal. Fulham just don't have a cutting edge. But I will go 1-1. I think Fulham will get something.
Really disappointed that Fulham couldn't get anything. Well, I say disappointed. Disappointed in Fulham. Not disappointed as a Brighton fan. It's great that they lost to Leeds, but they should have got something out of that game. For sure. I had a look at the league table because in my mind Fulham were, kind of really bravely fighting against it. I don't know. They're falling. They're quite far adrift. They really do need Newcastle to lose every match.
Well, apparently they're going to, according to you. But
yeah, which I don't think is a complete ridiculous notion. But Fulham do need to start winning, and if Villa do have Grealish back, I'm not sure this is going to be the game in which they do it. I'm going to back a Villa win in this one. I'm going to back a 1-0 Villa.
Andy's just given us £2 and said, I never said 6'4". What's he talking about there, Az? Do you know what he's on about? What's Andy? Andy's in the chat saying something references.
I have absolutely no idea, but I do know you can afford more than £2.
I was going to say, so give
a very successcal YouTube.
Yeah, give us
a couple of zeros on that, Andy.
Yeah, maybe give us a £5 and tell us what you meant by that. Okay, so let's go to Man United.
Mark's height, they're saying.
Oh, right.
You wish you were 6'4".
I tell you what, I once went for a gym induction, and I've been to a few of those in my life, and as you can see, with no effect whatsoever. But the guy who gave me the gym induction, that's the right phrase, was about 5'2". So he was a typical gym instructor, very stocky. But no, right, he was fine. and he measured me, and he didn't like the fact I was taller than him. And he measured me, and I went, he said, do you know what your height is? I said, I think I'm 6 foot. And he went, no, you're 5'11 3/4. I mean, 5 foot. Just because he was 5'2", is like, ridiculous. I'm not 6'4". I'm 5'11 3/4.
Are you really 6 foot tall?
I'm 5'11 3/4. I've just told you. But I'm not 6'4". Yeah, you've met me.
I've met you. I'm 6 foot. I thought I was quite a bit taller than you.
Well, we'll have to have a tool off when we next meet, won't we?
We will.
That'll be those Cuban heels that I'm going to wear when I meet you next. Man United, Brighton. This is tough, actually, Man United, Brighton. Because, I mean, I looked at some of the statistical models before coming on the show, and Fernandes is ranked very highly in the captaincy conversation. Rate My Team has in top. But I just don't see it. I just think Brighton's defence and the fact that they go there and go, right, we want to point out this game. I'm not sure Brighton will get anything out of it, but I think they'll restrict United effectively. So I think this is a win for United. I'm going to let you go first, though. Go on. What do you think? How is this going to go?
Yeah, and a few people asked me this. How do you think Brighton are going to be getting on? Obviously, I've got Trossard and Dunk in my team, who were kind of left over from last week. I don't think it's going to be high scoring at all. I don't think United are going to win this 3 or 4-0. I say that pretty much every like big game Brighton play, because I think we offer something different to a lot of teams in the league, and that we irritate and we frustrate and we push and we force teams back. And actually, I look at United and I think they're not going to cope with that very well, and they didn't cope with it very well early in the season, and then got that penalty. Remember in like the last
in stoppage time.
Oh, it was so annoying. So I think we'll score. I think they'll score. I do think they'll probably have a bit too much for us. So I'll go for a 2-1 United.
I don't see Brighton scoring goals like Fulham. That's the trouble. But they didn't have any issues against Newcastle, did they? With the strikers scoring and Trossard weighing in as well. I will go 1-0 United. I don't think it's going to be a big victory. I think Brighton will keep them tight, and United will get a late goal second half. Everton versus Palace. Again, I'll let you go first. I've got great hopes for this one, but I'll let you go first on that one as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a good stat, isn't it, about Palace's, the amount of headed goals they concede and the amount of headed chances they concede. And you look at Calvert-Lewin, you look at the amount of headed goals he scores, and you look at players they've got. I mean, you've got James back, you've got Dean there, all these guys knocking balls in. I fancy Everton to win this pretty comfortably, to be honest. I'm going to back a 3-0 Everton. They're
weak on set plays as well from corners, and you've got a big threat there from Everton with Mina and so on, and the delivery. Sigurdsson.
I haven't got Calvert-Lewin, and I'm a bit worried.
Well, I'm going in with Dino and Calvert-Lewin, and I've got great hope for Monday, but we'll see. Everton, and the trouble is, when you bank on Everton, you know what happens, right? So
I know.
1-0 Palace.
Especially at home as well. They're a nightmare at Goodison. I don't know what's wrong with them at home.
But I'm not going 1-0 Palace pot noodle. Correct that. I am going to go for a victory for Everton, and I'll go
I've got to take your first answer, Mark.
I'll go 3-1. I think Palace will score, unfortunately. 3-1. Yeah, 3-1. That seems like a nice score. I haven't picked that for ages. Wolves, West Ham, 2-0 West Ham. Straight away, no doubt. Wolves don't score. West Ham, Jesse on fire. Antonio will get one from 2 yards out again. Although he hit the post the last time he was 2 yards out. But yeah, I will go 2-0 West Ham for that one.
2-1. 2-1 West Ham for me. I think Wolves will get one.
They've done well, haven't they? West Ham.
I haven't got too much sort of insightful stuff to say. I just think Wolves will get one. I don't often back them to score. But yeah, I think they will.
This is it, isn't it? It's like Neto is a player that we have to consider with the fixtures they've got coming up. And yet every time I look at them, I think, where are they going to score from?
I know.
It is only Neto, but
is he a slight injury doubt? Did I see that? Did he go off with a bit of an injury?
I haven't seen that yet.
International.
I don't think anyone's bringing him in for this game week, but certainly with the wildcard in 31, those who are playing it, he's going to be in the reckoning. But I'm just wavering now. I mean, the fixtures are strong for them, but I'm so unconvinced by Wolves. That to me, they're the most disappointing team this season. Because I went into the season thinking, Traore's going to step up a level, and he has gone back. He's regressed.
Yep.
I was thinking the wing backs are going to be a factor this season, and they sold them both. Or one got injured, one got sold.
Yep.
And obviously Jimenez injury probably set them back. That was probably the turning point, and that was very unfortunate. And we hope to see him back, and hopefully next season they'll pick up where they left off. But they have been a major disappointment for fancy managers, and obviously I think Wolves fans will be disappointed as well. I mean, not just fancy managers. Yeah,
they will. I mean, your brilliant list of double-digit returns had Wolves having the most potential for the period they've got of good fixtures, but also an earlier thing you showed had defenders as being the most likely ones to get the double-digit returns, right?
Well, defenders have weighed in with more than I expected. this season.
So the likes of Sace, I think, could act. I think Sace over Neto for me is someone that I'm actually considering, because I'd never back on Wolves scoring, but they don't concede that many.
No, they don't.
Many.
What's happened to Connor Cody? Why is he suddenly going forward from corners and getting chances? Because he's in the mix now, and at the moment I've got him, and it's just over recent games. It's like they've done what Brighton did to Lewis Dunk. They go, "Oh yeah, you're quite tall. Why don't you get in the box for corners?" It's like really bizarre. It's suddenly Connor Cody's getting in the box and before, I don't know, did he not go up for corners? I mean, he was never a factor
I don't know.
until recently.
John Stones as well, right? Like John Stones never scored a goal, and now suddenly he's up there,
Stones
getting goals in and whatever.
Stones was always in the mixer, but Cody was the one I felt stayed back, and he let Bolly and Sice go forward, but not happening.
Semedo is one of my biggest disappointments of the season, because in our group chat, Luke said to me, start of the season, don't get Semedo, he's crap. And I went, nah, Luke, he's right wing back. He's playing for Wolves. He's going to get, quite a few assists. Going to probably get a couple of goals. No. Awful.
I was
absolutely awful.
I was on the official podcast with Julian Law, who knows Semedo very well. And I picked Semedo out just on the basis that he was right wing back for Wolves. Saying, no, he's coming in. Mm-hmm. He could be one to watch if he slots into the Doherty role, and he can mirror Doherty's presence in the final third. He's got to be a player we've got to look at. And he shook his head, although I couldn't see it. He was shaking his head, and he disagreed because he was such a bad defender. And he is a bad defender. He's not the best, right, defensively. And he was dead right. He's been a big disappointment.
He's bad defensively, and he's been bad offensively. But yeah, he's played pretty much every game.
Yeah, he shows promise. Like, he has good matches, and he does look threatening. But his end product just isn't there. He's not in the same league.
Crazy. He's at Barcelona for so long as well.
Yeah. Let's talk about the captaincy to end the show on before our teams. This is the new captain matrix. If you weren't watching Sunday's show, you missed a cracker, by the way. Much better than this. Then basically, this is the new captain matrix. This is what we're doing from now on. We are going to look at differential picks alongside the popular picks every week, just to sanity check that we're doing the right thing, because I do think we kind of pigeonholed ourselves to just look at maybe 4 or 5 players every week, and actually we should be appreciating the likes of, this week, Alonso, Havertz, Mount, Raphinha, Calvert-Lewin, and including them in the mix.
Look what you can do when you free yourself from EO.
I know, I feel liberated, and and when I put the captaincy on Kane, I'm going to feel like I gave it. Yeah, I mean, that's the problem. I look at this and think, all those are very good. But Kane, and you predicted a 4-0 against Newcastle, is still the stronger candidate. It's the same scenario as last week, in that I think Kane is the most likely to deliver points. Can Raphinha and Alonso outscore him? Yeah, I think they can. How likely is that? I don't know. Is it strong enough? The only thing that has me going towards a risk this week is that it was in my plan to do that, because I look at my team, and we'll see in a bit, I feel confident about my 11 to the extent that I think I could be more bold with the choice of captain. So I may well branch out, but more of that in a minute. Just looking ahead, so we're going to just weigh up a lot more options every week. We're going to talk about that, and obviously when we play our wildcards in 31, we'll update this and extend this as we go. So a different matrix. If you missed Sunday's show, that's what we're going to do from now on. We won't dwell on it too much today. We're going to go straight to this game week and the captain candidates. So, De Bruyne. When we look at minutes per expected goal involvement non-penalty, he is top of our charts. So that kind of does back your decision to bring him in and maybe put the captaincy on him.
Yeah, and it's City, isn't it? Like... City could. I mean, Leicester beat them earlier in the season, didn't they? Like, one of the first games, and it was an amazing performance for them. Will they repeat that? I don't know. I still, like I said, I still think when you've got the chance to kind of go for City, and you have a bit of an indication that maybe the team they're playing aren't as good. Because I think a lot of people will see City v Leicester and be like, "Oh, that's a tough game for City," but actually, some signs indicate that maybe maybe it's not that tricky for them. And if they get their team selection right, I think City could end up winning that maybe fairly comfortably. It's just I'm tempted, but I don't think I'll do it just because there is that slight fear of the rotation risk. And will he play? They could bring him on for 30 minutes to give him a bit of a run out. But these stats are nice, though, aren't they?
They are.
He's right up there.
He's having.
His stats have been good all season.
Yeah,
this is what I'm banking on. I'm hoping that I avoided him early in the season and kind of got away with it for the most part. When I went for Mahrez over De Bruyne, I don't think that was a massive error. It was what I did with the money that was the problem, because De Bruyne never went crazy for like weeks on weeks on weeks. But I think now, to the end of the season, I'm hoping maybe he can start. He's just looked a bit more like himself, like he's converting more chances, scoring for Belgium. He scored like some open play goals for City. He's just looking a bit more on it, I think. So yeah, I'm hoping that he can kick on.
Well, it's funny. It's almost like Gundogan has shown De Bruyne the role that he can play.
Yeah, that's very true.
And we've noticed that there's been like almost a little bit of a transition between the two of them. Gundogan perhaps dropping deeper and De Bruyne getting into those areas where Gundogan has occupied. I don't think we can rely on that and say, oh, Gundogan's not a good pick anymore yet. Because I think Gundogan he's got to be in the Player of the Year conversation now as well. So I don't want to write off Gundogan yet. But De Bruyne statistically has been outstanding this season in terms of chances, shots on goal. He's had plenty, but he hasn't converted them. The question is, will that change over the run-in? And also, will De Bruyne start every game?
Yep.
To me, he's not going to make my wild card, I don't think, unless he absolutely blows Leicester away with his performance. I still, just that nagging doubt that he will get rested as City get deeper into the Champions League, and I don't doubt that they will. I think they'll get past Dortmund. Pep's obsession with winning the Champions League, I think, will manifest itself in unexpected rest for De Bruyne once the title is won.
Pep's always valued the Champions League really highly, but he still does weird bloody things in the Champions League. I remember last year when he played De Bruyne wide right for no reason in a crucial game, and they lost the game, and it was well, obviously he tinkers too much. He kind of overthinks things in some ways.
I just don't want that moment, like you said, when the team sheets come out, that anxiety of watching to see if De Bruyne is in that team.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you've got to think that De Bruyne is going to play most games, though, right? Even if they rest him, they're not going to rest him for every game between now and the end of the season. They need to keep that momentum.
No,
going.
But he will get rests in games that they think they can afford to rest him around the European games, and that will probably be fixtures where you look at and go, "Well, I want him for that game." And that I just don't want to put my season running in the hands of Pep in this scenario. In a scenario where the title looks won and the Champions League is very much in his grasp, I don't want to be counting on Pep. I just don't.
Yeah.
That's
this is what I said. I mean, I can completely see why people would go no City or 3 City. I think you can. Either way, he's got the high risk, high reward strategy. I just look at Gundogan and I think he could play deeper in any system they play. He could miss out. He could play up the pitch and still do. But I still think Gundogan is going to do well between now and the end of the season. But I look at De Bruyne and I think I don't care where he plays. I literally don't care what position he plays in that team. He should do well between now and the end of the season, and he's someone who, in my position, is a bit of a differential, and I kind of like that aspect to him. He's probably not going to be someone I captain, but I do think what I'm seeing from him is a player that is just looking a bit sharper than he did earlier in the season.
See, that's my problem with him. It's a big outlay for a player that you're not going to captain, because when you're not captaining him, you might as well have Raphinha or a Lingard or a Madison who are a lot less. De Bruyne, for me, the captaincy's got to be a factor. And if you're looking at him going, I'm never going to captain him, that's where I'm like, well, there's better value, I think. That's my problem with him.
The captain's a funny one, though, because I don't know who I'm going to captain each week. There isn't those one or two. Fernandes and Salah, for me, this season, have always been the two players who I'm default captain, and same with Kane as well. But I'm just not fully invested in any of them, really. So this is what I mean. Like this is where I think like thinking a bit outside the box and being a bit kind of smart in how we pick captains and thinking about players outside of those core players, I think could actually do quite well for us.
Yeah, as we saw in the table we showed on Sunday, it's not about necessarily picking outlandish players that no one else will think of. It's just picking a different heavy hitter.
Getting the right time.
Yeah, and De Bruyne, I endorse him this week. I do think City, I've predicted 1-1, but I think that could easily be a comfortable win for City as well. I think they will trade blows with Leicester and City will take a draw, knowing they've got easier games to come to for the run-in. Because Dortmund looming is going to be in their heads. And I think, my worry with De Bruyne and Gundogan and Sterling, if they start, is with 10 minutes to go, even if it is 1-1, Pep will start thinking about Dortmund. So, yeah, I wouldn't endorse De Bruyne captaincy, but I can see he could come in if you're brave enough. But I don't think you are brave enough, are you?
I don't know if it's about bravery. It's just about like this is the thing that annoyed me on Twitter. It was something like
I was trying to play on your cowardly comment there. Sorry,
I know. It was like this big like thing that I'm endorsing, like always like captaining like stupid players and going like it's not about that. That's literally never been what I've ever said. I've just said back yourself. Back if you think Newcastle are going to be really resolute against Spurs, and they're going to hold them and they're going to defend really well, and City are going to batter Leicester, why would you captain Kane? That's the kind of
yeah. No, it's totally fair.
We're not going to get into that.
No, it's fine. The Bamford and Raphinha options are ones I'm very interested in because of the Sheffield United defensive data. I mean, you look at this table here, defences of the last 4 minutes per XG conceded, non-penalty, every 35.7 minutes. That tells us that they'll concede around 3 XG to Leeds, and Leeds are an attacking team. 19 big chances, as I've said, in the last 4 matches as well they've conceded. It really depends if Leeds can break through early. I think Sheffield United are the weakest defence on show. I know Newcastle could go, Spurs could go to town, but are Spurs going to go to town? I still struggle with it. So I want to look at Leeds and I want to look at Raphinha. And what I want to point out about Raphinha, and this is a subject that I talked about on the Wolf Pod, about players who start off in a lower tier in terms of our thinking because of their price. Like it or not, when we look at player prices, we pigeonhole, we put players in boxes and we go, oh, he's a 6 million midfielder, therefore he's a mid-price midfielder and should never be considered in the same bracket as Salah or De Bruyne. When you look at Raphinha since his first start, which is I think game week 9, look at this table. Look at the company he's keeping. In terms of midfielders, he's alongside Bruno Fernandes. Yeah, I know Lookman's 10th since game week 9 for shots on goal, which is incredible, isn't it? So it's sorted by shots on goal. Raphinha is 5th overall since game week 9, 55 shots. What's interesting here, though, is shots inside the box. He's had more shots inside the box since his first start than Harry Kane, 38 to 36. And that is surprising because he's a winger who, for me, is a threat from range. And I've noticed him getting in the box a lot more. Like his relationship with Bamford seems to be growing. There's a bit of a kind of understanding between the two of them. And it showed in the Fulham goal, right? Bamford dropped deep, set up Raphinha, who was cutting across. 38 shots in the box is really impressive, isn't it? That's the same amount as Salah since game week 9. So I think we've got to start looking at Raphinha in a very different light. He's not that winger who is a creator and isn't really a potent goal threat. I think he is. This data shows that he can be.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone hasn't listened to your Wolf Pod with Mode, it's excellent. And I'm not going to just repeat what he said because I thought what he said was spot on. His price next year is largely going to depend on where he goes if he does leave. I think Raphinha could play at any team in the league. I honestly do. I think he's class. He's absolutely phenomenal. He's a player who can make things happen, create chances. I think his output has been limited a lot this season by the finishing that Leeds have provided. If he stays at Leeds, he's probably going to be, 7.5 next year?
Yeah, and he'll be good value at that, I think.
And it'll be good value at that. I mean, if he gets priced at that and then he moves to like, I don't know, United, Chelsea, somewhere. I'm not saying he will, but if he did, you'd be looking at a 9 million midfielder priced at 7.5. It'd be first name on a lot of people's lists. Yeah, I think he's brilliant. You look at his price now, and you think we're not going to see that price again. He's going to easily be a 7.5 million midfielder next year.
So it's just interesting the comparison.
I think
to Kane.
he stays at Leeds though.
I think he does. I think we get another season out of him. But the comparison to Kane since game week 9, he's got stronger expected goal involvement, more shots inside the box, and more chances created than Kane, which is crazy when you think that Kane's had probably a fantastic season. His best probably since 16, 17, I think it was. So as a fantasy asset, he's performing like a heavy hitter. That's my point.
Yeah.
So when you look at the fact he's got Sheffield United at home, the worst defence over the last 4 by a massive margin, that's why I really want to talk myself into the Raphinha captaincy.
You're putting a lot of eggs in the basket, though. You're putting Bamford, Raphinha captain, and Dallas into it. But
looking at our teams, I will have Son and Kane as well. So equally, if I go Kane, I'm putting eggs in that basket as well. So anyway, at the moment, my captaincy is on Harry Kane, as is yours. So talk us through this, Az. What's your thinking at the moment? It looks pretty strong to me. I don't see many problems. Maybe Cancelo? You worried about that?
Yep. Very worried. But then I also feel like I've got Trossard off the bench, who I don't think is a complete non-option. Just because he's playing United. Like I said, I think Bruyne will get a goal in that. I've got like 9 million in the bank.
That is crazy. You're not getting interest on that, as that is...
I know, because I did Salah to Trossard, and I did someone else to Odegaard. So look at my midfield is Odegaard and Raphinha, and then Fernandes, and then my defence is all cheap. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to do Lookman, I think, to either Son or De Bruyne.
Right.
I think that's the plan.
And then who drops out, Cancelo or Odegaard?
Well, maybe Target.
Right. Really?
To be fair.
Okay.
Well, it's double. I don't like double defence. I never have done. Villa haven't exactly been the most solid defence team going. They keep conceding stupid little goals and to players. And if you ask me, is it Son or Target? It's kind of a no-brainer, really. If it's Target or Odegaard, I mean, I was so impressed with Odegaard, and I'm probably not going to keep him on the wild card. And we talk about fun and FPL and stuff.
Yeah.
I kind of just want to give him another game because he was just so good in that match. So you'd play Target over Odegaard.
Yeah, I think I probably would. I mean, the thing is with Odegaard, I think it's just the Modric factor. He's a lovely player, looks amazing, so comfortable with the ball, creates loads, zero return.
He has got no end products whatsoever.
Basically, that's the problem.
And this is why you got April Fool earlier. I don't know. Odegaard should have had a return in that last game. I don't believe all the people saying he's a sister of this sister and all that stuff. He should have had a return. He created like 3 big chances in that match. He was putting in wonderful crosses that just weren't being converted by Arsenal. And I don't fully trust the Liverpool defence.
Yep.
And I think if Odegaard's on it, if he picks it up from where he was in that West Ham game, I think he could get something. And it only takes... This is the thing, it's that classic thing with defenders versus attackers and things. It only takes a second for Villa to concede a stupid goal, and yet it only takes a second for Odegaard to pop a ball onto Lacazette's head. So, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, Lookman's definitely going to leave. It's going to be Son or De Bruyne coming. It means I won't have Alonso, who I've been kind of championing all pardon on Twitter and stuff. I really want him. I could just do like Target to Alonso or something like that. But I think I could do that. I don't really know at this stage.
Okay. Well, you've only got...
You would do that. You would do Target to Alonso.
Well, I'm so enamoured by the Alonso pick that I would probably would, yeah. Because I think I would. I mean, basically, this is my lineup. So I'm going with Pope, Diaz, Dina, Dallas, Lingard, Raphinha, Vice, Son, Fernandes, Kane captain at the moment, Bamford, Calvert-Lewin. Gundogan my first sub, Creswell and Dunk.
It's a good team this
week. It is. I'm happy, really happy. When I didn't take the risk on the captaincy last time out, I looked at this game and thought, I've got Dino and Calvert-Lewin. I've got the 3 leads against Sheffield United. I've got Lingard who could do something at Wolves. I've got Kane and Son covering Spurs as well. My only problem is where I go with the captaincy, and I could blow it all by doing that, because if I pick the wrong player and the other one hauls, it could ruin it. But I do think I've got a good enough 11 where I could take a punt. And it's not a punt, really. I don't think Raphinha would be a risk. I think he will get something. It's just whether or not he outscores Kane. And it's also that factor of having to watch Kane play at Newcastle and dread every little involvement he has, which is not comfortable viewing, is it? But I can't not pick Raphinha on that basis, and that's what we were saying earlier, right?
What you can't not pick Raphinha on is you think Spurs are going to struggle to a win against Newcastle. 1-0 we predicted. You do 4-0 for Leeds.
I know.
You've got to go for Raphinha. Come back yourself. This is exactly my point. This is exactly the point I was making earlier in the week.
I'm a coward if I don't do it.
Yeah, that's part of the bingo as well. Someone said I'd mention the word coward, and I will. I will mention the word. You've got to go for Raphinha in this team.
Yeah, I think the transfer I'm going to do is Dunk to Alonso. Alonso comes in for Diaz on the bench, right?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah. And then I'm going to play Lingard over Gundogan because I don't think Gundogan starts. And Lingard, I just always fancy him. What was it? 6 returns in 7? Wolves, and I'm back to 2-0 win for West Ham. So Lingard will get something, I hope. I'm going to go with
Alonso in for Diaz, and you've got
what a team. If I was looks great, doesn't it? Looks good.
If I was free hitting, it would pretty much be that team.
So I think when I've got that strength around the captaincy, I can afford to risk it, I think. Otherwise, I'm just going against what I said last week, which was I've got a weak 7-man team, so I didn't take a risk. When the team looks strong, it's set up to go for it. So the only trouble is Raphinha's got 80% ownership anyway, right? So he's not a differential by any means. If he comes in, I'm not going to get a bigger gain anyway, unless he comes in big.
Or unless he comes in Kane blanks.
Yeah, true. I don't think that'll happen. I think Kane returns. I think they both return. But I do think, and we've said this for weeks now, Raphinha's got a haul in him. He's got that one double-figure return at the moment at Newcastle away, which he doesn't bode well. But yes, he's got a haul in him. And I do think that Sheffield United game could go as a heavy win for Leeds. And in a heavy win for Leeds, you've got to think Raphinha comes out with double figures. So I think I will go for it. Because I think
I've got to just remind myself that I had a good week. I look at your team this week and I think, nice. Yeah, it's just like having Calvert-Lewin, Son in there. You're going to be getting Alonso in. It's powerful. But
I've had this before. You know, when you look at your team and think, oh my God, I'm going to have a strong game week, and then you come in with a 35-point score, and you think, oh yeah, how did that happen? What happened there?
So I've had that for 28 weeks this season.
Yeah, this is it. The players there just don't tend to read the script, do they? And actually do what we expect. That's why we play this game, right? BlackBox League, we've got a new entry straight in at the top. Nathan Joblin, who is 14th in the world, goes in above Luka Bubnik, who's down to 72, and Connor Richardson, who is always in the chat. I don't know if Connor's in tonight. He is in the chat.
He's there.
He's there at last. Because I have seen, bless him, sorry Connor, every week he's in the chat going, are they going to look at the BlackBox League? And this week when I put it in and I thought, we must look at it, I was thinking, I hope Connor's going to turn up, because it'd be ironic if he isn't there tonight and we mentioned it, but he is. So well done, Connor. 68 in the world. We would be right behind you, but sorry, Nathan's our favourite, so that's it. He's higher than you. That's how it works around here. We're mercenary.
14th in the world.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, and these
well done, Connor.
These three they're pimping it about a bit. They're in a lot of leagues. They're in Andy's league. They're in the Scout League. So it's not like we've got it. None of these are exclusive to us. So unfortunately, that diminishes my favouritism a bit. But even so, it would be nice to have a winner of the FPL in our league this year. So we're cheering along Nathan until the other 13 managers come in above him, and then they'll be happy. Yeah, it's terrible, isn't it? But I mean, 14th. How would you be feeling if you were 14th in the world right now? What would you be doing? How would you be approaching it?
Well, it's interesting because I mean you had like Ola, who was number one for ages, and I remember I was on the FPL show and he came on, and I said to him, you know, what's your strategy kind of going forward? Like, are you gonna, you know, carry on doing what you're doing, or are you gonna like protect yourself and stuff? And he was like, no, gonna carry on going for it. Like, it's been working for me up until now, blah blah blah, and it didn't work for him because now he's dropped. Like, you know, he's dropped out of it. He was like 60, 70 points clear in number one and stuff. And, you know, it's this kind of thing. Like, I think if you're 1K, you're looking to push into the top 100. This is where I think the differentials and doing things a bit different, you know, as a way of trying to hit the variance and going ahead is a strategy. When you're 14th, suddenly you're competing in a mini league. Basically, you're not just competing in a, you know, in a pool of like 1,000, 2,000 people. You're competing like 50.
Oh yeah, you are. I mean, Connor and Luca as well. I mean, I'm worried that Connor's watching this show and we might have an influence on him and blow it for him.
Oh, please don't listen to us. Please.
Yeah, I know. It's well, you know, we've sometimes come out with the odd
maybe listen to
part of wisdom, but we're not awful. But I don't, like I said to you, I don't like being around people who are in the chance of winning it because you just don't want to say anything that influences them and then ruins it.
At this stage, I would just be doing my own thing. I wouldn't be worrying about what other people are doing. What, you know. I definitely wouldn't be worrying about EO or even EO in the top 50 or anything like that. I think, you know, when you start getting to the last couple of games of the season, that's when maybe you think, okay, maybe I need to do something now to push ahead or whatever. But for now, there's time to go. You've got, 9 weeks to go. Things are going well. Just
Well, I hope
chill.
Nathan, Connor, Luca, and even Chris and Torja, who are not far behind, are relaxing, chilling out, enjoying their Easter. I wouldn't be doing any of those things if I was in their position, but I hope they can do that. It's time for Smash and Like, but of course we are going to do backstage tonight as well. So if you're watching the stream, stick around because we're going to do a Q&A afterwards, and we're just going to chill out and relax. I might get a beer and
I'm going to get a whiskey.
Are you? So there you go. So we'll have a bit of an interval and we'll be back, basically. But if you're listening to the podcast, that's all you get, I'm afraid. You want to watch YouTube and watch the stream, yeah. But yes, so it's Smash and Like time, as.
Yeah, 1,400 people watching live, which is great. Honestly, I hope everyone has an amazing Easter over the next few days and a nice bank holiday and everything like that. Restrictions are open. I'm going to be seeing my parents for the first time since June.
Oh, wow.
On Saturday, great. Which is really nice. And they're listening to this stream, I imagine. So looking forward to seeing you.
I've got a soft spot for your dad because I love his text messages. Although recently he must have worked it out, the autocorrect, has he? I don't know.
Well, I think because Bruyne will be doing all right. There's been less aggressive, less aggression coming from him. But yeah, I'm gonna post a picture of him, I think, on Twitter. Everyone wants to see him, and he's become a bit of a little mini celebrity on Twitter, so he'll like that. But yeah, like the stream if you haven't already. 1,400 people watching, 260 likes. Come on, guys, this is a poor.
Well, we weren't that bad, were we? We weren't that
bad. Please, we do appreciate it. It means a lot. And obviously, subscribe if you haven't already. But we'll see you in the after show if you're still listening.
In the after show, and also if you are listening to the podcast, or you're not going to be there for the backstage in a bit, I've got a week off work. And so I've got all that time to prepare for next week's Wildcard show. I'm going to get hopefully some good big data together, big talking points, and we are going to do the Wildcard to death next week. And we'll probably do a show and then a late night stream going into Friday because it's a Friday kickoff, isn't it? So join us for that if you've got to depart now. But thanks for listening. And it's a good night from me.
Good night, everyone. 2-1. See you in a minute.
Right, straight in.
Hey.
We're back, backstage. I've got a bit. Have you got a whiskey then, Az?
I have got a whiskey. Cheers.
Very nice. Cheers. That was a good show. Another long one. I couldn't believe we still did 2 hours because I thought I hadn't prepared too much. It was going to be nice. We hadn't got a look back and we still managed to do 2 hours somehow. I don't know how we do that really, but I guess the break from FPL.
We try to not do 2 hours. Like, we don't intend to come on here and do 2 hours every show, but it just kind of happens, doesn't it?
Maybe we should look at it. I mean, I'd be interested to know what people think on Twitter and in the chat, whether we should cut it back to an hour or do somehow.
I think what would be good is if we did like a kind of end of season like questionnaire type thing. See, the general sense I get is that people don't mind. Yeah. You get a few people saying that they'd like it a bit shorter, but I think with the with like the timestamps and stuff that we put, it's kind of makes it a bit more accessible. To be like purely like from a personal perspective, I love it. Like, I never feel bored at any point doing these streams with you. I could happily sit here for another hour.
No, and this is it. So. It's funny, when I was on the show, the Wolf Pod with Mode, that ended after an hour, and he was very much like, "Oh, it's got to be under an hour." But I could have talked to him for ages, and you know, I think when you're with someone who loves FPL and is passionate about it as you are, and you've got that kind of, you know, you bounce off each other like we do, and like I did with Mode. You just think, oh, I can talk. Yeah, let's get a beer in and let's keep talking, and that's basically what we're doing now. But
it's kind of like at what point, like obviously, like we want people to listen and we want people to watch, but also like, I do this for like enjoyment, and I don't want to like have to cut off like a good discussion or not say something that I want to say because we're trying to hit a certain time limit or something like that. And you know, if I was coming to the end of 2 hours and being like, bloody hell, that was a long 2 hours, Jesus, then maybe, but. Yeah, at the moment, I like it.
I think our partners probably would help if we didn't do too long. But yeah, we'll see. Let's see how we do on the Wildcard.
My girlfriend's upstairs playing World of Warcraft with her friend. She's loving it.
Well, that's living the dream. Mine's probably watching the Netflix box set. I don't know what she's watching at the moment, but we'll see. Ryan Jones, Mark, is that the Arctis? It's the Arctis Pro Wireless. Actually, it's very good. The Wireless Pro, very good. Anyway, that's a headphone question. Won't do any more of those. We have got a super chat from Nahal Kukani. I better not do the names, had I? You better do that. What do you think of taking one hit before a wildcard? Yeah, that is a good question, actually. Because there was a question in here about should I take a hit, Kufal out for Alonso. So what do you think about taking a hit this week if you were playing the wildcard next week? It almost feels like you shouldn't because you've got the wildcard, but I would be, I mean, for someone like Alonso, I'd be tempted.
Well, it comes down to you need that hit repaid instantly. So when you take a hit, this is obvious stuff, but like when you take a hit for a player, you don't need that hit to be repaid straight away normally because you might have that player in your team for 3 or 4 weeks and they can repay it over that time. If you're going to wildcard anyway, it has to be straight away. So if you get an Alonso for a 4-point hit, you need Alonso to score 7+ points on any defender that you take out. So defenders are difficult because West Brom could score. They could easily score from a set piece. You know, I know Chelsea, all the signs point to them not conceding, but they could. So Alonso's a tricky one. I think if it's a hit for someone like Son or De Bruyne or someone like that, then obviously you've got more, I think, more of a chance of it coming in. I don't think I'd take a hit for Alonso, which is why I'm probably not going to do it. I will probably do my Lookman to De Bruyne or Son and then leave it there.
Yeah, and I think you're right. And
you know what I mean? If Alonso gets 6 points, then cool, but then I haven't gained anything from it.
No, and it would make the game week fun watching Alonso, but Kufal could get something at West Ham, and I think your point about would you take a hit only if you were going to. I think if you're going to captain that player, yes. If you were going to get in a Kane, if you were going to get in a De Bruyne or a Fernandes, and you were going to put the captaincy on them, I think that does change it. But I think it's very difficult because you're right about if you take a hit, you want it to pay off over a number of weeks, ideally, not just be for that one. Otherwise, it is, you know, you're staking 4 points for an instant return, and you might not get it. Now Hal's come back in with another super chat. We won't just answer the super chats.
I will just say, just really quickly, that the super chats are basically there's so many comments coming in. It's hard to see. If you super chat, we see them. Like they just flash up in like big letters. Like even if you donate like 10p or whatever, like the money isn't an issue. It's just we see them a lot clearer.
That's why we saw Andy's comment earlier about 6'4".
Yeah.
So Nahal's also saying Alonso plus Calvert-Lewin to Antonio and Tosin, the Fulham defender, for -4 and wildcarding in 31.
I'm guessing it means Alonso and Calvert-Lewin in for Antonio.
Yes,
and
he
Tosin,
does.
right?
He does. So that's two players. That's 2 players for a -4. That would tempt me more because I think Calvert-Lewin will have a good week. I think Alonso and Calvert-Lewin could easily return. But then Antonio could at Wolves, and Tosin could for Fulham at Villa as well. So it's not that straightforward.
Well, I'm assuming if he's going, he could do Tosin to Alonso, I'm guessing, for free. Because if he's moving up from Antonio to Calvert-Lewin, he must have some money in the bank. So I just do Tosin to Alonso for free.
Yeah. Yeah, I think taking a hit before a wildcard is difficult. Midhow D. I still have both Cancelo and Stones. Who should I keep? It's so tricky with City players.
It's difficult. There you go.
I'd
keep for your bingo.
I'd keep Cancelo, I think. Because I think what you can do with your City players is, as they're a defender, you've got 5 defenders. So presumably you've got 3 or 4 other defenders you can play. So you don't have to rely on Cancelo start. And then what you've got to do is try and read Pep. Try and read him when he's going to play him. Because when Cancelo starts, I think he's got higher ceiling than Stones. I know Stones has got the set piece goals, but I think Cancelo has another couple of double figure returns in him before the season's out, potentially. So I would favour keeping Cancelo, have a strong bench, and try and read when Pep's going to play him. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I had to lose one of them for Dunk last week, and I agonised over it all week because, like I said to you, Stones has overperformed on what I thought he could do, and Cancelo's underperformed because I think Cancelo has got these huge scores in him, but just has only hit them once, kind of all season. I ended up keeping Cancelo for that reason. If I was wildcarding now, I wouldn't have either of them. I don't think. I'd go for Diaz or Edison, like we talked about earlier. Purely, if I was picking between Cancelo and Stones, the advantage of Stones is he's going to play 90 or 0. I think Cancelo could conceivably come on at some point, but he has the bigger upside to it. So if you're asking me which one I'd keep, I would probably agree with you, and I would keep Cancelo for that upside. Make sure I had a strong bench, but realistically, I don't think I want either of them going forward.
No, I think you're right there. Cam Z, which mid until game week 35? Mount, Lingard, or Neto? Let's bring up the ticker to help us with this. I really should have put the game weeks across the top. I don't know why I didn't do that. Until 35, so until we go there. So Mount, Lingard. I mean, my heart straight away says Lingard. Of
course it does.
I think Mount is something about Mount which is inherently dull. I think he's a good player. I think he's a lovely player, in fact, and I like him for England. I don't want him in my fantasy team. I just don't. No. I just think the difference between Lingard and Mount is Lingard excites me. When I go into a game with Lingard, I think he could do anything. He could get a couple of goals. He could score a 25-yarder. And I think Mount is really good player and offers very similar, and he offers better set plays. But there's just something about Lingard I like owning. Neto, not yet. Neto you need, I think, for 32, 33, 34 and 35, I think it is. That's the run of Sheffield United, Burnley, West Brom, Brighton. So I think...
Well, he's saying which bid until 35.
Yeah, I think you start... I mean, ideally you start with Lingard for the next 3 and then you transition to Neto. But I mean, I'm kind of... my wild card, I'll probably have both Lingard and Neto at the moment. They're both in my team at the moment. So my answer would be Lingard, because I don't trust Neto yet. And if Lingard does well over the next 2, I'd hold him over Neto, even with Neto's run, I think. What do you think, Az?
Solid answer. If I was wildcarding this week, so if I was doing a 30 wildcard, I would agree Lingard would be the one, because I'm not too sure about Mount and Neto's start. I mean, Neto straight away at home to West Ham, not a great fixture. Mount's got the best fixture of the 3, but I wouldn't be too surprised if he didn't play in this game. So I would probably go for Lingard in that. But I think going forward, I think Mount and Neto do actually have the better fixtures. Mount's role in the Chelsea team, again, I'm just not really too sure what it is. Like, whether he is really going to be pushing up the attack, or whether it is kind of like busy midfield type player. I think he's going to be steady, a steady Eddie.
He is.
He might get you the odd assist, chip in with a goal. That's not necessarily a bad thing. But I think maybe with the run Neto's got, I think he's the one that I would want for the run, for that Wolves run.
Yeah. I know what you're saying. I'm gonna hold Lingard for the next 2, maybe 3. But when you look at Sheffield United, Burnley, West Brom, Brighton, even Wolves should get goals in that game. And if they do get goals, Neto will be in profit, you'd think. I want to take both, really. I think that's... I just loathe to get rid of Lingard because I look at the end of the season and they've got Burnley, Everton, Brighton, West Brom and Southampton. That's a good end to the season.
Yeah.
And West Ham, I don't think they're fizzle out. I think they're playing to the end, right? They've got Europe to play for. And so... and Lingard's got everything to play for.
I think they're all good picks. I think all 3, Neto, Mount and Lingard, I think they're all good picks between now and the end of the season. I think Neto might... for that run, I think he's the one. But in terms of the whole season or whatever, Wolves have got the least to play for.
Yeah.
So that probably, and also they're probably the least attacking of the 3. So it's close between them. I think for that run, I'd pick Neto. But yeah, Lingard is, and also the England place as well.
Yeah,
Lingard has to perform between now and the end of the season to get in the England team.
And 6 turns in 8, I think it is now. So yeah, defying XG. So. Lingard to Neto, back to Lingard is my answer. Okay. Joachim
I agree.
Christopherson, this is his team, I take it. Goalkeeper Martinez, defender Dina, Rudiger Dallas, and then in midfield, Aubameyang, Raphinha, Bale, Fernandes, up front, Antonio Bamford, Kane, and his bench is Pope, Diaz, Souček, Target. Should he bench boost that bench? Pope, Diaz, Souček, Target. It is strong. It is a strong bench.
Or should you know what? When I played my bench boost earlier, I didn't actually want to play my bench boost in that double game week. I wanted to save it for this week because I saw potential in it for being...
Did you?
When you've got 3 leads and you've got your Spurs player and United player, there was quite a lot of teams covered. Actually, the fringe players all ended up having quite good games, and I was really tempted. If I had that bench, I'd be bench boosting that. Pope, Diaz, Souček, Target. I mean,
yeah,
you're not going to get better than that.
They could all return.
Got a bloody hat trick in the qualifiers.
Yeah, they could all return. I don't look at any of those 4 players. Pope could get something at Southampton. Diaz definitely could get a shutout at Leicester. Target certainly can against Fulham at home. And Souček, well, yeah, it's a randomizer with Souček. You don't know what.
I don't know if Joachim's got the wild card, but if he has got the wild card as well, then that would make me even more determined to do it, because then you haven't got to worry about the bench boost when you wild card.
Yeah, that's the thing. Bench boosting in 35 is all very well, but I think that we put too much stock in the double game week with the bench boost, and that's one of the things I'm going to take into next season, is that I've got to try and separate this obsession with bench boosting in a double game week. It is good, it is strong, but it depends how certain you can be when you get to that game week, how your 11 will look as well. Because often what I do, I save the wild cards and put it in tandem, play them both together, and then you play the wild card, and by the time you get the bench boost, it all crumbles, and then you've not only wasted your bench boost, or when you could have played it in a stronger week, you've played your wild card.
He does have the wild card, by the way.
Does he?
He does have the wild card. So I would bench boost that personally.
Right. Yeah, I think I would agree. Absolutely. Gets it out of the way as well. The bench boost is something that just
that's the thing.
Plays on your mind, doesn't it? Yeah.
I'm tempted to play Game Week 1 next year. Build a strong team. Game Week 1. Bench boost it.
I tell you what, that's not a bad idea. It would be a bizarre thing. It would get it out of the way.
Bloody blessing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would, because it means that you're free. Then you can play both your wild cards.
I know.
Independent of the bench boost. Because the trouble is, I listened to the Green Arrow last night, and they were talking about, do we overplay the double game weeks when it comes to the chips? And I think we absolutely do. It's one of the lessons that we've learned this season that we've got to look at next season. And I think certainly that first wild card, you end up potentially not playing it as strongly as you could because you're obsessed with pairing it with the bench boost.
Yeah.
Yeah. So something to look for. Ryan Jones, $5. Thanks very much. Enjoy the content. Been following you all for years. Cut out a bunch of extra noise, other pods, and only listen to BlackBox. Went 4 million to 1.8. Wow. So what a season he's had. 4 million to 186k. No,
Jesus,
thank you
4
much.
million to 186.
Well, I gave him a tip on that.
Steady on, Ryan. You're ahead of me. So can you just, back it up a little bit?
And
nice.
Do you want to read the next couple?
I can indeed. Liam Healy, 96, £5 donation. Thank you very much. You can listen to us talk FPL all day long.
Oh, no question there.
No, there is a question.
Okay.
What is the biggest upside this week? Bruno in or a Chelsea defender in? I can answer it in terms of ownership and stuff. If you're getting in Alonso versus getting in Bruno, Alonso has the bigger upside, because if Alonso does well and Bruno doesn't, you will gain a bigger ranking increase than if Bruno does well and Alonso doesn't. So if you're purely looking at it from an upside perspective, then it's the Chelsea defender. Like I said earlier, I don't think United are gonna go mad against us at Brighton. I can't see them scoring 3-4 goals. I wouldn't be surprised to see Chelsea win that 2 or 3-0 with Alonso scoring in that. So yeah. I would purely for this week, I'd go Chelsea defender over Bruno personally.
I agree. I think if you're bringing in Bruno, it'd have to be to captain him. I think I wouldn't. If you're bringing in Bruno over a Chelsea defender, because like you say, if you're looking at upside, and that's the crucial term, upside is all about a Chelsea defender, and it's got to be about Alonso because he has that multi-dimensional option to return. Right? He'll surely get you the clean sheet. And he'll probably get you bonus with that clean sheet if he sets up chances, which, the stats show tonight that he has created 10 chances in the last 6 matches. So there's every chance he'll get chip in with bonus in a clean sheet if they win 1-0, which could be a scenario, right? If they win by 2 or 3 goals, he could end up with a bigger attacking return. And I think Bruno, great player, will possibly get something against Brighton, but his ownership is so high. Upside's the key word. It's got to be the Chelsea defender.
But this ties into all the debates I've been having on Twitter over the last couple of days. It's all about upside, right? Like if you're looking, I know, I have a beer. That's how a lot of people feel.
We'll get another one. No, go on.
But the upside is the key word, right? Is like Luke and I aren't trying to say that these options are necessarily the best options. They're not the optimal strategy of whatever you're trying to do, but they are ways of massively decreasing the gap between you and first, second, third if you're in a good position, because you need the luck to come in, you need the variance to come in, but they're ways of just like accelerating the speed in which you can climb the ranks. That's all it is. That's the only point
there are. I think
make.
People were thinking that you were saying play that way every week. Because I think when you drew the parallel to Luke, the way he plays, he does play that way every week. And I don't necessarily think that taking 4-point hits, 8-point hits every week or every other week is going to win it, right? I think taking some hits and taking risks can win it, though. Absolutely. You've got to have more luck, though, haven't you? Anyway,
the example I gave was that, if optimal strategy, I'll say it again for all the people drinking, was the best way to play, if you had 10 people and one person was playing optimally and the other 9 people were, taking sensible, Alonso captain this week is a perfect example, would you bet all the money in your bank account of that one person playing optimally to beat the 9? No, you wouldn't, because one of the 9 could hit some kind of luck, could hit some kind of variance that puts them above. So it's not optimal in the sense that it will always win. It's optimal in the sense it's an intelligent way to play, but you're playing against lots of other people. So sometimes you need to hit that luck and variance to go ahead.
Absolutely, but I think the point was made on Twitter, and I think I was making it as well, that the optimal strategy will help you get to a position where you don't need luck as much, perhaps. And that was, and I think there's something in that, right? The managers that do well every season, they've got methods that get them into the top 10k regularly, right? And it only takes the luck to go their way, and they perhaps will push on. Now, that's not to say that there are people out there who go, well, I've got the perfect way of playing, and the only reason I haven't won it yet is because I haven't been lucky. That's the nonsense, right? No one's got the perfect way of playing. That's why I'm doing this show, because I don't think I play well enough. I think I make mistakes every season. I talked about one of the ways I make mistakes tonight. We're all trying to get better, right? And I think there is And the other thing I would say about optimal strategy is it changes every year. Like what works one season will be thrown out the window the next. And I said,
the main thing I'll say about optimal strategy is there isn't
one.
strategy.
There isn't one. No, but there are some things that we know you should do and things you should avoid that when you package them up become the best way of playing. Like I said, you don't play the season with 2 expensive keepers. You normally have 2 cheaper keepers. That is kind of like an accepted strategy now. I'm not saying that wins out every year. That's what I mean. There could be a season where having 2 expensive keepers and rotating them works wonderfully, right? And that's what I mean. Every season will give us new variables, which mean any number of the strategies that we think are optimal has to be thrown out.
But I've always thought that hits are that kind of thing, because I think hits can be argued in either way. You have the people who never take any hits, and they say, I was listening to I think it was the latest the manager on Fantasy Scout with FPL Badger, who was brilliant. If you haven't listened to it,
I did listen to it.
Yeah, he was very much saying hits are like no go. Like he will only take a hit if it's absolutely necessary for his team. But then you have other managers, and I think we're more in that camp, saying, well, actually, we think hits are important at the beginning of a season to build team value, to get yourself ahead of competition and all that kind of stuff. So what is the optimal strategy there? You've got good managers like you and Badger saying completely separate things. Yeah, there is no optimal strategy. It's dependent. It
is dependent on whatever the season serves up. You've got to, as I said, play what you've given. But I think there are. I adapt every year. You have to, and it's how quickly you can adapt your strategies to the season will dictate where you finish, and then you need luck on top of that. That will also be a massive factor, right? So that's why I think my strategies are not robust enough. I'll have bad seasons and I'll have good and very, very good seasons, right? So my job is to try and get all my seasons a bit more consistent, because I'm either up or down or really, really low finishes, right? So I'm not doing something's wrong with what I do. It was funny what Tom said in that Meet the Manager though. He said, I don't take hits. Then later on he said, at the start of the season, I make sure I stay on top of team value and I will take hits if necessary. So he kind of did say he did. He's not in the realm. I mean, I think you've taken 48 points this season. I've taken 36. So he wasn't anywhere near that. But I'm a big advocate of hits as well. I mean, I've taken less in the second half of the season, but I think to stay on top of value and to lock value in and to get on bandwagons at the right time, I don't think there's anything wrong with a 4-point hit. But Luke takes it to another dimension. Let's face it. He does play. He plays it a lot more risky.
Well, Luke is fantastic, but Luke is one of those guys. I think where he gets to this point at around 1 million or wherever he is, and his goals don't change. His goal is to win it or bust. That's it. Whereas I get to 1 million, like I did, and my goals realign. So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to win it this year, but I want to finish in the top 100k. So I change the way I play to hit that 100k, whereas Luke doesn't, and he in fact he goes the other way and he thinks, well, I'm gonna go mad, and like that's fine. Like I have no problem with that. That's where the kind of the rank thing is a bit. I don't like. If Luke's giving me advice, I don't discount it because he's 1 million in the world all of a sudden. But his team is going to reflect the fact that he doesn't really care that much anymore because he's not going to hit that number 1, so he doesn't mind. Whereas I do care where I finish. Yeah, we've been aging this, but we should probably move on to another.
Nick Baker says thoughts on Alonso versus Son. That's a good one because Son is a player we're overlooking. If he is fit,
I'm debating,
and he starts, he's not out of the captain conversation either. Son, to be honest, because you saw Kane drop deep and let Vinicius do the running up front, right? And actually, Kane spoke about that post match, and I think that at Newcastle that could be the scenario again with Son in the Vinicius role, Son running in behind, and Newcastle will be bloody fragile to pace from out wide cutting inside with Kane centre. I'm worried about that. I mean, I've got Son, but I'm worried that Kane will haul a load of assists or something. So this is close. I would still go Alonso for the fun factor and the fact he's a differential.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, this is perfect for my team because I can get either. I can get anyone, anyone that I wish.
With 9 million in the bench on the bank. Yeah.
But to me, Son and De Bruyne are ahead of Alonso for me. And Son is... Yes, Son is. Whenever I see Son and Kane play, I know Kane's got the insurance of the penalties, but I just like watching Son. And the thing is, I don't ever believe Son was that injured. I think it just seemed that it happened at a time. If Mourinho had played Son in that game against Villa, I think he would have gone off on an international duty.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think he was clever in the way that, and I remember we were talking about it, and I said, I think he'll probably play this game. And he didn't. And I thought, actually, that's clever, because if he doesn't play this game, he's never going to go off. I reckon he's completely fine. I don't have any worries about his fitness or him starting or anything like that. He'll definitely start against Newcastle. And that makes him a really good pick. So he is a captaincy pick as well.
So what would you advise, really Nick? What would you advise, Nick? I'm going Alonso because romantic and all that.
I'm going to go Son because I see Son, Alonso amazing, but only takes a second for Chelsea to concede. And I know Alonso's attack. If I'm looking at purely attacking potential, Alonso versus Son.
Oh, Son. Yeah, of course. Okay. Sorry, Nick. 50-50 on that one.
That's useful.
Yeah. Al Capul, thoughts on Aubameyang, keep for favourable run or sell? Aubameyang, Liverpool at home, Sheffield United, Fulham. Yeah, he has got a favourable run. And you know,
got a nice new haircut. You seen that?
Has he? No, I haven't. No. And actually, Sheffield United.
Worst.
What's he done to it then? Has he dyed it?
He's gone. Do you know Travis Scott?
No. Sorry.
Have a quick Google of Travis Scott if you've got a second, and you'll see.
Give your opinion on Aubameyang while I do that. Then go on.
I will. He's too expensive.
Oh yeah, okay.
But for what he offers, I think if Saka was fit, I would be saying Saka is by far the better option. But he's not really. I just think for a prolonged period, I think Saka is a better option than him. And Lacazette's fit, so Aubameyang isn't playing out of position anymore, and he just isn't offering enough to make me think
not for his price.
Money is worth it. Like if Fernandes, Salah, De Bruyne, Vardy, if all these players were like completely rubbished, then maybe, but they're not. They're still factors, and Aubameyang is way down my list.
So what would you do? Aubameyang to Son or Aubameyang to De Bruyne or something like that this week?
Yeah. Yeah, I would. Because it's the Liverpool game, isn't it? So it's a good week to sell him, because I'm not expecting Arsenal to win that game. They're going to get 3 or 4 goals in that match. No. And I think De Bruyne or Son could.
But so, ironically,
I'd switch him to one of those.
With the wild card, Aubameyang at Sheffield United is if you're looking to take a risk for a couple of weeks, getting Aubameyang in, then selling him going into 33 is an option. So 32 rather is an option. So yeah, Sheffield United and Fulham, it's tempting, but I wouldn't hold him. I don't think for the Liverpool game when there's options like De Bruyne. I think will start at Leicester, and as we've said, Son very very strong. If you don't have him, Al Capul, I'd go with him over that. So we've got some more. They keep coming in. Oh my God, do you want to read these out? I think Tom Stevenson's in the chat, by the way. Tom, really good. Meet the manager if that is you. Yeah, really enjoyed it actually.
So Tom Stevenson is that's Connor's number 2 in the thing.
Yeah.
Do you want to read it out? I've just refreshed my page because my thing went mad.
Okay.
I've only got a £10 one. I can read the £10 one.
I've got Jim 010583 first, who put a fiver in. Love the show. Did the news of Spurs double in 32 make you reconsider wildcarding in 31? I was going to ask you that. Did you think about that?
Did the double game for Spurs make you reconsider the wildcard? No, not really. Because like I said, I think I'm only going to take 2 Spurs into that match. It made me reconsider my plan in terms of who I wanted, because I'm going to go into that with Son and Kane. But like I said, I'm always going to keep Kane anyway till the end of the season. So it's only Son who I have to decide whether I move out with the blank and whatever. I still think the wild card is set up with Leicester, with Wolves, with the fixture swing that we've got, and I want some Chelsea defenders.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's always like individual, right? It's always depending on what your team looks like. But for me, I'm still going for the wildcard in 31.
Yeah, and I listened to Fergie tonight, and he was arguing with Adam about. Adam was like, "Oh, I might not do 31," and Fergie was adamant it's got to be 31. What are you thinking? And I'll look at it. It has made me look to see whether it's the right option. So I think it's good that we sanity check. But I think at the moment, I looked at what I would take into 31 and 32 if I wildcarded in 33, and it's not good enough. So I'd have to wildcard in 32, I think. And I think the Gameweek 31 gives you opportunities that if you don't wildcard, you've missed, I think. Yeah. So I think it's maybe check, but I don't think it's going to make me change my mind. Can you see the John Jiggs one for £5? Or do you want me to read that?
Nope.
Okay, I'll read it.
You can you read them all down to major?
Yes, I can. Okay, I'll let you do the major one. This is John Jiggs. I have Shaw, Creswell, Dina, Diaz and Dallas this week. Should I bring in Alonso for one of them or avoid? Playing 4-4-2, still have the wild card. All right, okay, so what's he got to do? Shaw, Creswell, Dina, Diaz and Dallas. Well, Dallas has got to play. Dina has got to play. Shaw at home to Brighton.
Shaw or Creswell?
I think I've got Creswell on the bench and I will have Diaz on the bench with Alonso starting. If you're playing 4-4-2, for me, your defence will be Shaw, Dina, Dallas, Alonso. If you can get Alonso in for free, I would bring him in for Diaz. That's what I would do, I think.
So we don't know if there's any wild cards or
he has his wild card, so he's going to wild card. So
yeah,
you can get rid of Diaz, right? I think Creswell at Wolves would be my bench defender, and I would play Shaw, Dina, Dallas, and Alonso. What do you reckon?
Listen to Mr. Mark Sutherland's. Yeah,
I think I would, because I think Leicester can score, and Diaz should play, but it's not absolutely certain. He's probably 95.
The only thing is with taking out either Diaz or Creswell, you've probably got quite a lot of money tied up in it if you bought them early. Like Diaz was 5.5, wasn't he? He's up to like 6.3 or whatever it is now. So if you're going to want him back in straight away on the wild card, it's probably not.
Yeah, how much?
Worth it?
I think you only lose 0.2 at the most. I don't think he's gone up that much, has he? I don't know. That's a good point.
Diaz was 5.5.
Good point.
Diaz was 5.5. He's now 6.2. Creswell was 5. He's now 6.
Yeah,
so you could lose 0.5 on these guys.
So sell the one you lose the least on if you want to keep them for the wild card. Yeah, if you're going to keep the wild card. Yeah, that's a good one.
That's my advice. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, Abhishek. He's donated the £5 without a question, and then it's down to iMajor, which is your question. £10, which is the biggest super chat we've ever had, unless Andy's going to come in with that 50 quid after he promised.
Oh yeah, right. iMajor, it's not even a question. It's the biggest super ever. It's not even a question. He says, speaking for many, huge props for the production effort both. I will say the production effort was...
See, there we go.
The production effort is a combination of a great guy we had in who did the graphics and the music and everything like that. But Mark, I mean, fair play. Like Mark does the stats and the tables.
Well,
and everything.
It's look at the cameras we've got now. Look at the sound we've got now. You know, we're trying to up our game.
Well,
it's
with still driven by you. To be fair, you do an amazing job with all this.
But thank you very much, iMajor.
iMajor says me and him are the same rank.
Right. Well, identical ranks.
Identical ranks. So assumingly identical points. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that pans out. I actually had an Instagram a few weeks ago from a guy called Andy who said we were on identical points and identical rank. And we've now set up a mini league and the loser of it donates to charity, £25 to charity.
That's a quality idea.
iMajor, if you want a charity bet, £25 between us, then
get in touch.
Here's your opportunity. Get in touch.
As at blackbox.com, get in touch, or on Twitter, of course. Ellis Jones, perhaps the last question of the night, says Legends, Alonso in hold Bale or bring in Son for a hit. That's quite tough. You're advocating getting rid of Bale for Son.
My answer.
Yeah, go on.
I'd do it.
Would you? For the hit?
I'd do it for the hit. Yeah. I don't think Bale's going to play. And I think Son could go wild.
Yeah.
I'd do it.
I think unless
what's the worst that's going to happen?
Yeah.
Like with that move? What is the absolute word? Bale starts, but Son will also start, And I'd still, if they both started, I'd still back Son to outscore.
The thing is, Bale might not start, so I don't know what Ellis has got on his bench. But I can't see Newcastle scoring, so Son's going to get 3 points without doing anything at all, right? So that's 3 of the 4 back straight away, unless you've got someone to come on off the bench. And Son, I think we haven't really had him in the conversation until the backstage section where we talked about him. He could really be the winner out of this game, not Kane. It could be Son. So I think if I don't know where Ellis is in the ranks, but if I was trying to close the gap, I think that's a move I would do as well. I think I agree with you. Yeah.
Do it. It's Andy Mack, by the way. Andy Mack is the guy in my league who had the same rank as me. I'm beating him, so it's currently Andy Mack who's going to be donated to charity.
Right, I love that. Love that. We should do that. We should name a game where you can go, if you've got the same points as me, get in touch, and then we'll start a league, and then we'll give it to that. It's a good idea.
We could end up owing bloody hundreds of
we could. That's true. And you know what I'm like. I take ages to give them the money as well.
You did pay it.
I did do it, in the end. Midal D, another £5. Thank you very much, Midal. You are top quality. My fave podcast. Happy holidays for celebrating. Thank you from Delia. Thank you, Delia.
Midal's always there in the chat as well. So
really nice. Very good. And it was great to see Connor in the chat tonight. We finally rewarded him with a mention. I was pleased about that in particular. Do you want to read Tavish's comment there?
Right, last one. This is the last one tonight. Tavish Bagat, Dean and Vardy to Alonso and Kane for a hit. I mean, I hate it, I think.
Yeah,
I don't like it.
No, I don't like it because Dina could be a big player this week.
Dean's big.
Yeah, could be. He never quite delivers for me. I always, whenever I've got Dina with a good fixture, I always have such hope that he's going to be a double figure return. Because the thing is, he'll get a clean sheet and he'll get some bonus, and you think, and then Everton always let me down. Vardy could score against City. I mean, he tore them to bits, didn't he, at the Etihad? So I really think that Vardy could get something out of the City game. It depends if you're going to captain one of Alonso and Kane. If you haven't got a captain, then getting Alonso and Kane and captaining Kane or Alonso I would probably do it. So it depends where the captaincy is.
They're probably the best 2 captain options this week, Alonso and Kane. So,
Raphinha? No,
in my mind,
no.
Well, I don't think Leeds are going to go crazy against Sheffield United, but you do. Although I think if I had the wild card, I wouldn't do it. If I didn't have the wild card, I wouldn't do it. So my advice is don't do it.
Okay, I would do it if one of those was my captain, I think. There you go. Okay, that's it then. Well, that was lovely. I like the after show chat because I kind of chill out, get a drink, being with our friends, asking questions, which is really good.
It's a bit like we're strippers that people are chucking money at us.
I don't think of us as that, although you've now put that thought in my head as I go to bed tonight. I mean, you did say when we hit 100,000 subs, you would take all your clothes off.
BlackBox only fan coming to 2022.
Deary me, I don't think that's going to be very successful, but we could try. I'm game. I'm up for anything.
Times are hard.
It is, yeah, not that fun. Full-time fantasy should be paying better than that has. Come on, let's face it. Okay, well, thanks very much for joining us. A pleasure as always, as we've nearly done 3 hours. I probably have, but good luck with the game week. I still haven't made up my mind what I'm going to do with the captaincy.
Me either.
And we'll be on chat over the weekend, I'm sure. And thanks so much for staying with us for the question and answer session. And we'll see you next week for probably a couple of shows. So thanks so much, guys. It's proper. Cheers, good night from me. Good night.